Yo, Atlas speaking and welcome to part 3 of What If I Was Reborn in Jujutsu Kaisen as Toji Zen'in's brother and obtain the 8 gates. Let the tale begin. Chapter 51, Expelling a Student? Are you all alright? Zen'in Shinsuke didn't walk far before he spotted Maki and the others. The shattered ground, collapsed buildings, and scorched air all spoke of the brutal battle that had just ended. Sensei. Maki, hair disheveled and glasses gone, leaned heavily on her blade just to stay upright. From her battered state alone, it was clear she'd been through hell, thankfully, nothing beyond surface wounds. "We're fine," she said, forcing a smile. Shinsuke gave a faint nod. He placed a heavy but gentle hand on her shoulder. "Good. That's enough. After this fight, you've passed." Maki froze. Her eyes trembled as if she hadn't dared hope for those words. He was saying, she'd passed the trial? Her voice quivered with emotion, as Sensei, "You mean, I've really passed?" She knew all too well, there were techniques, secrets, entire realms of power her teacher had yet to share with her. She had trained herself bloody for years, always chasing this moment. Watching her classmates grow stronger by the day while she stood trapped at her limits had gnawed at her heart. Even if her raw strength surpassed most sorcerers, without those cursed lens glasses she couldn't even see curses. The thing that had kept her going all this time wasn't just her grudge against the Zen'in clan. It was her teacher's acknowledgement. "Don't get too worked up yet," Shinsuke said flatly. "Whether you can truly do it is still uncertain. Rest well after this. Adjust yourself, then come find me again." Her body was finally strong enough for the gate of opening, yet whether she could awaken the power of blood and life force was another matter. After all, unlike him, she still carried a faint trace of cursed energy. "I understand, Sensei. I won't let you down." Maki's eyes burned with determination. She would become as strong as him. Stronger, even. Meanwhile, Okatsuyuta, relieved his friends were alive, steeled himself to fulfill his promise with Rika. After all, the power of pure love, borrowed power, had to be returned. Shinsuke eyed the girl curse, with her huge, staring eyes, and couldn't help but feel a strange amusement. A curse this terrifying, such a waste, really. Then came the touching scene. Instead of dying with her, Okatsu inadvertently broke her curse. Rika's form shifted, returning to her original human self. Okatsu stood frozen in shock. "Rika!" Clap, clap, clap. "Congratulations. You've lifted the curse." Gojo Satoru appeared, clapping with that infuriating smirk. Who's this guy?" Maki and the others stared in confusion. They had never seen Gojo without his blindfold. "I'm the devastatingly handsome Gojo Satoru, of course," Gojo announced proudly, before turning serious and explaining Okatsu's lineage. Okatsu's bloodline is extremely rare. He's a descendant of Sugawara no Michizane, one of the big three vengeful spirits. Which also makes him my distant relative. The students exchanged stunned looks, trying to process this. But Shinsuke had already lost interest. He turned away silently, his mind focused inward. In the pages of his inner scripture, 7 of the 8 gates now gleamed open. Gate of opening, 100%. Gate of rest, 100%. Gate of life, 100%. Gate of pain, 100%. Gate of limit, 100%. Gate of view, 100%. Gate of wonder, 100%. Gate of death, 0.8%. After this harvest, the 7th gate was complete. But he also noticed, curse exorcisms now gave less life force than before. No, not less, it was that his training required exponentially more. For the final gate, he would need massacres of this scale several more times over, or he'd have to hunt down multiple special grade curses. "Looks like I'll still have to rely on Little Ghetto," he muttered. The mid-boss had fallen. But the final boss had yet to make his move. Although there would be more to harvest in the future. Even though stacking the 7 gates with the heavenly restriction was already almost more than enough, it still felt incomplete. If you didn't train it to the max level, it wouldn't feel right. Geto never would have guessed that, after his death, someone would keep treating him like a woolly sheep to be shorn. The night parade of 100 demons finally wound down, and the Jujutsu world enjoyed a short, uneasy calm. 3 days later, however, the authorities made a decision that shattered that fragile peace. The higher-ups have decided to expel 2 second-year students from Tokyo Jujutsu High, Hikari Kinji and Hoshi Karara. In the conference room at Tokyo Jujutsu High, Yaga announced the order that had just come down from the higher-ups. Hikari Kinji's and Hoshi Karara's techniques had, in the end, stirred the conservative faction into action. Their style, leaning close to modern scientific principles, was disliked by the old guard. Anything they disliked had to be eradicated. What right do they have? What rules have they broken? They helped during the night parade of 100 demons, why expel them? I object. Ammonai's voice rose first. She had been supervising the 2 and was the first to stand up and protest. Just because some old fogies didn't understand a technique, they'd kick students out? Was there any justice left? Any reason? No other teachers spoke up. Everyone knew that once the higher-ups had decided, objections were meaningless. Satoru Gojo lounged in his chair, palms open, utterly entertained. He couldn't have cared less. He glanced at Zen'in Shinsuke and smirked. Hey, aren't these your students? Don't you have anything to say? Gojo teased. Shinsuke glanced at Gojo, legs crossed, enjoying the show, and gave a faint smile. Thanks for the reminder, Gojo-sensei. I almost forgot I still had those 2 students. So what are we going to do? Gojo looked at him, waiting for a reaction. Shinsuke drummed his fingers on the table, thoughtful. Seems there's only one solution. Maybe I should just kill all those old men. His eyes flashed at the idea, and for a moment he looked positively delighted. At once, the other teachers' skin prickled and cold sweat broke out across their backs. No, Shinsuke-sensei, that's not necessary. There's room to negotiate. I'll talk to the higher-ups again, Yaga stammered, wiping his forehead. He understood Shinsuke wasn't joking. If this man could deal death even to his own clan, what were a few elderly counselors to him? True, the higher-ups could be rigid, but without them things would descend into chaos. Gojo, though, was laughing his head off. Perfect, kill the elders, and we'll take their seats, he chortled. He'd always had it out for them. Yaga quickly cut him off. He was terrified these words might travel to the very elders Gojo was insulting. Shinsuke-sensei, Yaga said more seriously, I will report back to the higher-ups. I will not allow Hikari Kinji and Hoshi Karara to be expelled. He slammed a hand on the table. He would do his best to have the decision reversed. After all, he was the principal of Tokyo Jujutsu High, surely that counted for something. Right? Chapter 52, The Higher UPS Plan, Death Penalty? No, absolutely not. Yaga Mazamichi. Know your place, you're only the principal of Jujutsu High. Don't think that because we let you be principal you have the right to meddle in our decisions. We put you there, we can unmake you a principal just as easily. A chorus of scolding rang through the dim room. Outside the curtain, Principal Yaga wore an expression of helplessness. He hadn't expected this. He was the school's principal, shouldn't that count for something? That he couldn't even protect his own students felt humiliating. Gentlemen, please, won't you reconsider this decision? Those 2 students' homeroom teacher is Zen'in Shinsuke. I've heard he's close to them. If you expel them, he'll hold the school accountable. Yaga forced his frustration down and tried to reason calmly with the higher-ups. If one voice alone couldn't move them, perhaps 2 would. Surely the Zen'in family's name carried some weight with these old men? At the mention of Zen'in Shinsuke's name, the room fell silent. After a moment a cracked, elderly voice replied, regardless of who their teacher is, the rules can't be broken. If expulsion is warranted, expel them. If he has objections, let him come and speak to us. Clearly, even Shinsuke's reputation didn't sway them. Yaga had no choice but to back down. He'd done all he could, it still changed nothing. Afterwards, Yaga called Zen'in and apologetically explained the outcome. "That's how it stands, Zen'in-sensei. I'm so sorry, those old fossils upstairs, I don't know what got into them. They won't budge." "No problem. Leave it to me. You wanted me to negotiate with them, right? I'll talk. I'm sure there are a few people among the higher-ups who can be reasoned with." Shinsuke hung up, then faced his students, Hikari Kinji and Hoshi Karara. "Put your bags away and get on with your lives. As for the higher-ups, treat their orders like the wind." He was tired of conservative elders who couldn't tolerate anything new. The old man at Kyoto's school was walking around with a guitar and exorcising curses. Why not expel him, too? The hypocrisy made Shinsuke scoff. "Sensei, don't risk getting involved with the higher-ups on our account. You'll be caught up in this." Hikari and Hoshi were equal parts amused and touched when they heard Shinsuke would stand up to the council. They'd never expected the man who'd been so laissez-faire to actually come through for them. In truth, Shinsuke's motives weren't purely noble. He did want to protect his students, but he also hoped to keep his own bonus intact. And perhaps, selfishly, he didn't relish being the butt of Gojo's mockery. Only a day later, the higher-ups reversed their decision and canceled the expulsion. Smash! In the dark council room, a senile elder slammed a bottle onto the table in fury. How dare he? The others fell silent. The earlier threat had driven home a sobering truth. This man had always been a tyrant, someone who would not hesitate to slaughter his own kin, and being a teacher hadn't changed him one bit. A whole wall in the room had been split and caved in like a spider's web. Streaks of blood ran through the cracks, a grim reminder that what had just happened was no dream. He must be executed. Sentence him to death. Have Satoru Gojo carry out the execution, one elder erupted, eyes bulging with fury, his face flushed as if about to vomit blood. Calm down. The death penalty? Another elder countered. Do you really think Gojo has a 100% chance of killing him? If that man decides to run, who can stop him? If he wants revenge, it won't be simple. A person without cursed energy can move through barriers with ease. Even our sacred places would mean nothing to him. If he set his mind to it, could we stop him? They all knew it was unreasonable to expect Gojo to sit beside them day and night as a bodyguard, nor could they rely on him to do their bidding without question. So what then? Are we just going to let him ride roughshod over us? Another barked. If we let this pass once, there will be a second time, a third time, countless times. Their anger at Zen'in Shinsuke's conduct ran deep. If they could have overpowered him, they would have. But confronted with failure, rancor only deepened. We can't let him walk away scot-free, one sensible voice said. There must be consequences. Heads bent in thought. The Zen'in family might be implicated, but this incident didn't necessarily oblige them to intervene on Shinsuke's behalf. The council could handle him as they saw fit. Publicly executing him is out of the question, an older member murmured, but we could quietly summon Gojo and have him eliminate Zen'in Shinsuke in private. If the attempt succeeds, all's well. If it fails, it'll be Gojo's unilateral action. No one here will be traceable. Do you think Gojo will obey us? Someone asked. Don't worry. The elder's voice was calm, confident. I've checked, Gojo and that man do not get along. He's wanted a duel for some time, he won't refuse. Whether he can kill him is another matter, and that's not for us to control. If nothing else, at least it'll warn the man, the council isn't soft. The elder presiding at the head of the table nodded. Make it quick. Don't drag this out. Some on the council still thought the whole affair overblown. Expelling 2 students might have been the simpler route, and smoothing things over could have preserved face. But the conservative faction prevailed. These old men were stubborn and inflexible. For them, the lesson had to be painful and unmistakable. Only blood, they believed, would prove the point. Chapter 53, Maki's Change, officially begins her body training path. Master, I'm ready. High in the mountains not far from the school, Maki stood facing Zen'in Shinsuke, eyes shining with excitement. Her master was finally going to teach her stronger techniques. What could be more thrilling than getting stronger? Don't get ahead of yourself. Let's see if it takes first. Start with an extreme conditioning session, Shinsuke said, handing over the weighted gear he prepared. Maki donned the weights without asking questions and immediately dove into training mode. She'd seen her master do this countless times, she knew the drill. She'd tried extreme conditioning before, but after a single session she needed several days to recover. She didn't have Shinsuke's miraculous regeneration. Overdoing it would slow her progress and risk injury while she was still growing. Shinsuke watched closely as Maki sweat and pushed herself. Her body strength was already at a high level, but could she forge the elusive Kaketsu that would let her develop a different kind of power? After a few hours of relentless exertion, Maki hit her limit and began to pant heavily. Keep your mind clear, feel the changes in your body, Shinsuke urged. Steam rose from her skin, her complexion flushed crimson. Shinsuke's eyes sharpened. There's something here. Master. I can feel it. Maki gasped, overcome with emotion. There's a warmth in my stomach. Her joy was short-lived, she spat blood. Hey, what's wrong? Where does it hurt? Shinsuke hurried forward to support her. Maki's face turned a deeper red, veins stood out on her forehead. Master, there are two forces fighting in my body. It's cursed energy, she realized. That faint, previously hidden cursed energy inside her had been awakened. Shinsuke understood. The newly forged strand of Kaketsu had awakened and was pushing against the tiny remainder of cursed energy she carried. Kaketsu and cursed energy are antagonistic, usually only one can dominate inside a body. In a normal person, the cursed energy would instantly crush and expel the nascent Kaketsu. But Maki's cursed energy was unusually weak, which allowed the fledgling Kaketsu to hold its ground for the moment. Either way, the internal struggle was taking a toll. Maki, you have two choices, Shinsuke said quietly. First, I can remove the Kaketsu you just created. If I do that, your cursed energy will remain active, you could become a sorcerer, but your ceiling won't be high. Or second, I can erase the cursed energy inside you entirely. If I erase it, you'll be like me, you'll never be a sorcerer, but you could fully cultivate Kaketsu-based strength. Maki's answer came without hesitation. I choose the second. Maki's face twisted with determination, no hesitation. That cursed energy had chosen the worst possible moment to flare up, and she'd had enough of it. All right. Hold on tight. My power is coming. Shinsuke Zen'in set a hand on Maki's shoulder. In an instant a thick, feral surge of energy poured into her like a beast forcing its way in. PF. That single, massive wave shoved the lingering thread of cursed energy out of her body. It fled in a single direction. Maki coughed up blood and collapsed, utterly spent, into Shinsuke's arms. It worked. From now on, your path is mine, Shinsuke said. The last trace of cursed energy had been expelled. From that moment Maki was a true non-sorcerer. But she did not instantly acquire some miraculous, superhuman body like Shinsuke's. Because of the twin setup, Maki and my shared a link. As long as my still harbored cursed energy, Maki could never be literally the same as Shinsuke. Still, Maki had now unlocked the ability to cultivate blood power. Master, was that power unique to us? Maki asked, weak but elated. For the first time she felt Shinsuke's force directly, so vast, domineering, brutal. This was the road she wanted. Yes. I call it Qian blood power, something a body trainee can cultivate. What you felt just now is only the base. Shinsuke carried Maki to the base of a large tree and propped her against the trunk. Feel the changes carefully. He guided the tiny strand of Qian blood into the acupoint in her brain, letting it seep slowly into the meridian. Your training from here on is to fill that acupoint with Qian blood until it's fully opened, he instructed. I understand, Master. Maki rested a moment, then pushed herself up. She couldn't wait to begin. The Qian blood felt as mighty as cursed energy, if not more savage. Cursed energy is corrosive, this Qian blood was all raw force. Because Maki's internal cursed energy had been so weak, she'd had the chance to feel it at all. For most sorcerers, abundant cursed energy would have smothered any Qian blood the moment it tried to form. Watching Maki, Shinsuke realized something important. If his Qian blood was powerful enough, it could violently expel another person's cursed energy. But that clash would be lethal for most people. Maki's case was exceptional. And ordinary sorcerers could always regenerate cursed energy, which made such a purge impractical for general use. Having dealt with Maki, Shinsuke called over his shoulder, "You've been watching long enough. Show yourself." "Oh. I didn't want to disturb you, but I didn't expect you had this in you." Satoru Gojo swaggered out from behind a tree, grinning as he looked at Maki. "Huh, no cursed energy at all. How did you do it?" Gojo asked, genuinely curious. "Mr. Gojo?" Maki bristled. She hadn't expected her secret training with Shinsuke to be witnessed, and she wasn't thrilled. "Not on purpose, I swear. I just came looking for this guy," Gojo said, nodding toward Shinsuke. "He didn't press how the purge had been done. Those high-level elders were going to have me secretly kill you, you know?" Gojo's tone turned excited. He'd finally found a proper excuse to beat Shinsuke. "They ordered me to execute you." "What?" Shinsuke stayed calm, but Maki instantly snapped. The idea that those stodgy elders would dare sentence her master to death set her hair on end. Chapter 54, Zen'in Shinsuke vs. Gojo Satoru. "Maki, don't lose your cool." Shinsuke turned his gaze on Gojo, lips curling into a faint smile. "So, how do you plan to handle this? This guy would never let such a chance slip." Gojo tugged off the bandage covering his eyes, grin spreading wider. "The higher-ups didn't dare announce your execution in public. That just proves they're scared you'll retaliate." He knew exactly what those geezers were thinking, using him to deal with Shinsuke. "They've lived too long," Gojo went on, voice light but edged. "Can't even tell right from wrong anymore. Honestly, I agree with how you handled things. But I did take their job, so I at least have to act like I'm following orders." He shrugged with mock helplessness. If not for that smug grin stretching to his ears, Shinsuke might almost have believed him. "Maki, move back. Far back. Watch closely, I'll show you how to wield our power." He knew Gojo wouldn't back off. The man was dead set on this fight. Fine then, perfect chance to see where he stood now. "Yes, master." Eyes shining, Maki sprinted a few hundred meters away despite her injuries, eager to witness what pure body training could unleash against the so-called strongest sorcerer. With her out of the way, the two men squared off. "At last," Gojo said, cracking his knuckles. "I've been waiting years for this. Don't you dare run this time." His eyes gleamed with boyish glee, not hunger for battle, just the thrill of finally beating up this hated rival. "Relax. Today, you're the one eating dirt." Shinsuke grinned back. Then he vanished. Boom! A massive fist slammed into Gojo's infinity defense, forcing him back several meters. Arms crossed before his chest, Gojo sneered, already on guard. Pure hand-to-hand? He couldn't match Shinsuke's speed or raw force, not even close. But he wasn't dumb enough to rely on brute strength. He expanded Infinity's passive defense, enhanced his movements with refined control, and used 6 eyes to track every twitch of Shinsuke's body. "Come on! Take your beating!" Gojo blurred into a streak of motion, colliding with Shinsuke in a shockwave that flattened the trees around them. From her hiding spot, Maki gawked. Their movements blurred beyond sight, so this was the level of true monsters. One day, she vowed, she'd stand there too. Boom! Gojo laughed wildly. "Your power's brutal, stronger than cursed energy in its way. But still not enough to breach my defense. Stop struggling and just get pummeled." He poured more cursed energy into infinity, pushing his speed close to teleportation. Every instinct screamed at him to keep going until Shinsuke was nothing but a battered mess. Not bad. You live up to strongest sorcerer. As I am now, I can't match you head-on. Shinsuke admitted it openly. Infinity plus 6 eyes was absurd. A body path alone wasn't enough to overwhelm it. But Gojo, ready yourself. I'm done holding back. His grin twisted, and his body roared. 5 gates, open! Boom! Steam erupted around him, muscles flushed crimson, veins bulging like writhing cords. The sheer aura blasted Gojo back. What the hell is this? Gojo's eyes widened. He'd never seen Shinsuke like this. His energy spiked several times over in an instant. That's the Power Master promised to show me? Maki trembled in awe, hands tightening into fists. The pressure alone screamed overwhelming might. Ha ha ha. Now it makes sense. No wonder you could slay special grades so easily. Gojo roared in exhilaration, unfazed. But this still isn't enough. He spread his arms, preparing higher-level techniques. You think this is all? Shinsuke barked, veins bulging as he forced his body further. Gate of view, open. Boom! His aura spiked again, steam hissing off his skin. Pain racked every muscle fiber, but the surge was intoxicating. Worth every second of torment. Stay sharp, brat. His voice thundered in Gojo's ear. The 6 eyes could see him, but his body lagged behind. A fist like a cannon smashed through layers of infinity, slamming Gojo square in the face. Bam! Gojo became a blur, skidding through the earth and gouging a trench before catching himself midair. Wiping blood from his lip, his pupils narrowed. He actually broke through? You've been hiding deep, haven't you? He muttered, grinning despite himself. Gojo floated high above, his expression cooling as the rush of excitement gave way to calculation. At first, all he wanted was to rough the guy up a little, but Zen'in Shinsuke's strength was proving far beyond what he estimated. Fine then, don't blame me for playing dirty. Today, you're getting your beating no matter what. If Shinsuke was going to hide his full power, then Gojo would drop the pretense of fair play entirely. He raised his hands like pistols, aiming down at Shinsuke. Cursed energy coalesced at his fingertips into a blazing crimson sphere. Reverse curse technique, red. The orb of repulsive force fired downward like an artillery shell, detonating with an earth-shaking blast. Boom! Gojo didn't stop, chaining one red after another, peppering the ground below in a barrage. It was a wide-area bombardment, pure map-clearing firepower. After all, Shinsuke couldn't fly. Or so he thought. Each shot slammed into the earth with terrifying force, tearing apart chunks of the battlefield, yet none landed on Shinsuke, who wove through the bombardment with impossible speed. Gojo frowned. Red is fast, but not fast enough to tag him. Unless I use hollow purple. Just to beat me up, you're really tossing away all dignity, huh? Shinsuke bent his knees and launched upward with a thunderous crack, his figure blurring into the sky until he was level with Gojo. What can I say? Gojo smirked. I'm a sorcerer, of course I'll use my strengths. I'm not stupid enough to fight you at close range. Now, with Shinsuke in the air, there was nowhere left to run. Gojo leveled his finger gun at him once more, crimson light swirling into existence. Give it up already. Losing to me isn't shameful. Just take your beating. Chapter 55, Compensation? Don't get too full of yourself, brat. Zen'in Shinsuke stomped hard against the air itself, each step thundering like an explosion. His body blurred into afterimages, darting through the sky at speeds the naked eye couldn't follow. A heartbeat later, he was above Gojo Satoru, his massive shoe, easily over 40 centimeters long, slamming down. Bang! His heel clipped Gojo right across the head, sending him crashing downward. No way! Gojo's aura flared violently as he forced himself to stop mid-fall, shock flashing across his usually smug face. This is taijutsu. He's literally walking on air. For a brief moment he stared in disbelief. This was straight out of Legends, stepping on the sky itself. But Gojo had no time to gawk. Red cursed energy spun at his fingertips as he prepared another blast. Shinsuke, however, only felt irritation. Gojo looked practically unharmed. Damn turtle shell defense. If only I had the inverted spear of heaven, breaking through that technique would be child's play. The crimson-red sphere lanced forward, but Shinsuke tilted his head slightly and let it sail past. HM? Someone's coming? Both of them paused, sensing multiple cursed signatures rushing in their direction. Guess it's about time we wrap this up. Let's end it with one last move. Shinsuke grinned, knuckles popping, cords of muscle coiling up his forearms like steel cables. Don't dodge this one, kid. He clenched his fists. Heat shimmered around his arms. Morning Peacock. For a split second there was silence, and then his fists blurred into a storm of strikes, so fast the friction against the air itself ignited into a barrage of flaming blows. Boom 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 boom. A rain of blazing fireballs filled the sky, like the heavens themselves had turned crimson and were crashing down. Even Gojo's eyes widened. You've got to be kidding me, you're not even human anymore. Who the hell produced elemental attacks purely by punching? But he didn't panic. His hands moved in a blur, drawing in cursed energy until it condensed into a massive azure sphere. Technique lapse, blue. Maximum output. The orb roared with terrifying suction, dragging Shinsuke's flaming punches into its core before they could devastate the mountains below. The azure sphere swelled, streaked with fire, until it became a colossal fireball. With a flick of his body, Gojo hurled it past Shinsuke. It streaked into the sky, exploding in a dazzling firework that shook the air itself. The blast left space trembling. Gojo! Zen'in Sensei. Stop fighting! Yaga Mazamichi's voice rang out as he sprinted onto the scene, other Tokyo Jujutsu High teachers and students hot on his heels. After all, this mountain range was their school's territory, used for inter-school exchanges. The sheer destruction had triggered alarms. Many had assumed a group of curse users had attacked, only to discover it was Gojo and Zen'in tearing the place apart. Yaga's face darkened. If I'd been any later, these two maniacs would have flattened the mountain. But the combatants ignored him. Shinsuke locked eyes with Gojo, a wicked grin tugging at his lips. You've got one last chance, kid. Wanna risk it? Gojo hesitated. His hands rose into a mudra over his chest, cursed energy surging, but when he saw Shinsuke's half-smiling, half-daring expression, his fingers stilled. Slowly, he let his hands fall. Forget it. No point anymore. He'd wanted to beat Shinsuke black and blue. But this guy was hiding power even Gojo couldn't read. Sure, hollow purple was devastating, but with Shinsuke's monstrous state, it might not even land. And if it did, without reverse curse technique, Shinsuke would be crippled or dead. Gojo didn't want to kill him. He just wanted to vent his grudge. Now, it wasn't worth the risk. And if Shinsuke pulled out yet another freakish technique mid-battle, Gojo might start doubting whether the man was even human at all. As Gojo let his energy fade, Shinsuke exhaled, letting his own state regress. The aching in his body began to fade almost instantly. He smirked. Knew it, the synergy of heavenly restriction end. The 8 gates regenerative feedback. Maybe, just maybe, I'll even open the 8th gate someday without dying. Looks like no one alive could actually force him to open all 8 gates. What the hell is going on with you two? Yaga Mazamichi arrived with a crowd of teachers and students in tow. One glance at the cratered earth and flattened forest, and his head started throbbing. Gojo! Old man! Why were you fighting? Who won? A disappointed Tengen Star plasma vessel, Riko Amanai, puffed her cheeks. Ugh! I missed such an epic showdown? Why didn't anyone tell me they were going to fight? That, Shinsuke said innocently, spreading his hands. You'll have to ask Gojo. Everyone immediately turned toward Gojo. Oi oi oi, what's with those looks? I just wanted to spar with him, alright? Teachers sparring now and then, that's totally normal, isn't it? Of course, he wasn't about to admit he'd only picked the fight because the higher-ups gave him a convenient excuse to finally beat on Shinsuke, and still hadn't succeeded. Saying that out loud would just wreck his pride. Sparring? Yaga pointed at the obliterated landscape, his voice cracking. Does this look like sparring to you? Do you have any idea how much it's going to cost to fix all this? His eye twitched. You're both paying for the damages. The school isn't covering this. Shinsuke coughed into his fist and waved dismissively. Ahem, this was all Gojo's doing, nothing to do with me. If anyone's paying, it's him. Then, without hesitation, he bolted. Maki, we're heading back. Oh! Coming! From deep in the forest, Maki quickly sprinted over. Inwardly she let out a sigh of relief. Thank God I ran far when they started. Otherwise, I'd be a casualty by now. You! Gojo nearly cursed it out loud when he realized Shinsuke had shoved all the blame onto him. But then he thought about it. Damn it, technically, it was his fault. If I'd just let his firestorm hit, the damages would be split. Fine. Whatever. Principal Yaga, I'll get you the money later. He figured he'd just go squeeze it out of the old fossils and the higher-ups. If they refused to cough up? Well, maybe he'd take a page from Shinsuke's playbook. Hey, Gojo, so who actually won? Riko still only cared about that, bouncing on her toes with anticipation. All the teachers pricked up their ears. Gojo's mouth twitched. He hesitated. This was tricky. Neither had gone all out, and admitting the truth would be humiliating. Call it a tie. And with that, he vanished in a flash, running away just as decisively as Shinsuke. Like hell he'd admit out loud that the strongest sorcerer had just gone toe-to-toe with a guy who didn't even have cursed energy. HSSS. Several teachers, including Kuzukabe, sucked in sharp breaths. As expected of Zen'in Sensei. I always knew he wasn't simple. Right? No wonder the two biggest troublemakers in the Jujutsu world keep butting heads. Their strength really is on the same level. TCH. What a waste of time. Mei hefted her axe and walked off. She'd been hoping for a big payday, only to discover it was just an internal squabble. Alright, enough gawking. Back to your duties. Yaga sighed and waved everyone off, already pulling out his phone to arrange damage assessment. He had a decent idea of what really sparked this battle, most likely something to do with the higher-ups. Otherwise, why would those two maniacs fight this seriously? It couldn't just be because they didn't like each other, right? Chapter 56, Mai's Transformation. Master, do you really think I can become as strong as you? Maki followed behind Shinsuke Zen'in, her voice trembling with excitement. After witnessing her master clash with the strongest sorcerer of the modern era, Gojo Satoru, she couldn't help but doubt herself. Could she really grow into someone who could stomp the air itself, soar through the sky, and hurl firestorms with her fists? Before, she had always thought her teacher was strong. But what she had seen today went beyond strong, it shattered her understanding of what was possible. Why are you overthinking? Shinsuke gave her a sideways look and smirked. It took me decades to get this far. You're still young. The path we walk has to be taken one step at a time, one bloody footprint at a time. As long as you're willing to put in the work, you'll step on Gojo's head one day too. Shinsuke had high hopes for Maki. She had the grit. In fact, he suspected her progress with the 8 gates would outpace his and Toji's. Her body wasn't as monstrously tough as theirs, which meant she would reach her limits faster, and the blood energy required to open each gate would be much less. Of course, that also meant that even though she might advance faster, the raw power she could unleash with the gates would never equal his. It was like comparing Might Guy to Rock Lee, the foundation determined how high the ceiling was. That was why Shinsuke, with just 6 gates open, had been able to withstand Gojo Satoru head-on. I understand, Master. I won't let you down. Maki nodded firmly, her gaze blazing with determination. For the first time, she felt she was walking a path with real hope. She would give everything to reach the end. Meanwhile, over in Kyoto Jujutsu High, Mai froze mid-training. Something foreign surged into her body, and suddenly her entire being felt light, unshackled, more alive than ever before. What is this? She stared blankly at her hands, shocked by the sudden change. Her cursed energy flowed smoother, denser, and for a moment she felt invincible. On instinct, she raised her palm, gathering cursed energy into a condensed sphere. A cursed energy bullet formed. She waited for the exhaustion that always came, but nothing. Eyes widening, she formed another. Then another. By the time the 6th bullet flickered into existence in her palm, Mai finally felt fatigue creeping in. I really did get stronger. Her chest tightened with exhilaration. She had no idea why this had happened, but the joy of it left her giddy. Until now, she had never been certain she could beat her sister. But now, she had hope. No, more than that, she could see the future. A future where she wasn't limited to bullets, but could construct entire arsenals. Ah! Just wait, sis. I will defeat you. Mai could already picture Maki's shocked face when the day came. Then a wild thought struck her: if I keep getting stronger, could I even surpass my brother someday? But the memory of Shinsuke casually butchering cursed spirits flashed in her mind. She immediately dropped the idea. Beating her sister was one thing, beating that monster of a brother was suicide. What Maki and Shinsuke didn't know was that the tiny fragment of cursed energy Shinsuke had expelled from Maki's body during training hadn't disappeared. It had drifted, and lodged itself inside Mai. That single fragment had filled the gap in her once flawed constitution, making her at last a complete sorcerer. From now on, how far her construct technique could go would depend only on her resolve. The twins' cursed fate had, at last, found a perfect resolution. At the same time, the higher-ups of the Jujutsu world received word of the fight between Gojo Satoru and Shinsuke Zen'in. What if he already suspects it was us who ordered Gojo to move against him? One elder trembled. After all, the plan had been his suggestion. If Shinsuke found out, he'd be the first target. That lunatic really would kill me, he muttered, pale. Another elder tried to soothe him, though mostly to calm his own nerves. Don't worry. Gojo and that man don't get along. He won't tell him. Should we go hide under Master Tenjin for a while? One of the more cowardly geezers already looked ready to pack his bags. Shameful, the most authoritative elder slammed the table. You think Tengen-sama cares about your petty schemes? Enough. This matter ends here. They all knew dragging Tenjin into it would only backfire. After all, they had been in the wrong from the start. Still, that knowledge didn't ease their fear. For days afterward, many of them slept fitfully, waking from nightmares drenched in cold sweat. As for the chaos he'd stirred in the upper echelons, Shinsuke Zen'in didn't have the time or patience to care. Megumi, from today onward, you're officially a first year at Jujutsu High. Here's your student ID. Keep it safe. Shinsuke handed over the card, formally completing his nephew's enrollment. Megumi Fushiguro was the very first of the new batch of first years to register. Understood, uncle. Megumi tucked away the ID, then raised his head to ask, Uncle, does this mean I can start taking missions to exorcise curses? He had already studied all the basics of techniques, cursed energy, and curses themselves back at the Zen'in household. There was no need to repeat it at Jujutsu High. His reasons for enrolling were straightforward: take missions to earn money to support his household, and hone his strength through real combat. After all, both his uncle and his father were expecting him to one day inherit the Zen'in clan headship, and the fortune that came with it. You can, Shinsuke nodded, but start with small jobs. Don't go charging into the hardest missions right away. Build your experience step by step. You've got plenty of theory, but your practical combat experience is almost zero. Take it slow. He spoke earnestly, like a strict but careful guardian. After all, this boy wasn't just his nephew, he was also a future cash cow. The Zen'in clan's wealth had to stay in the family. It could only be passed down through Megumi, or through his disciple, Maki. If you run into trouble, come find me. If I'm not around, look for Gojo Satoru, he's also teaching the first years. And if neither of us are here, ask your aunt, Zen'in Maki. She's in the second year. Compared to Toji, Shinsuke came off more like an old-fashioned father, fussing over every detail, making sure Megumi had a safety net. Of course, Shinsuke already knew what lay ahead. Someday soon, Megumi would cross paths with Yuji Itadori, and then catch Sukuna's eye. When that time came, either he or Gojo had to be at Jujutsu High. Ideally, both. If Sukuna needed someone to toy with, let it be anyone else, not his nephew, not his niece. I understand, uncle. My father already warned me about most of this before I came. Megumi's tone carried a hint of impatience, though he didn't dare show it openly. His uncle's presence was intimidating, even his father became meek in front of this man. Oh? Getting restless already? Shinsuke raised a brow, then gave him a light kick. Fine, get lost. And don't come bothering me for nothing. Yes, uncle. Goodbye. Megumi's face brightened at the dismissal. Without hesitation, he bolted. He finally had permission to hunt curses, and he wasn't about to waste a second. Shinsuke watched him go, shaking his head. Humph. When did I turn into an old man who nags? Chapter 57, Special Grade Cursed Object. It didn't take long for Megumi Fushiguro to get the hang of things. He quickly adapted to the work, exorcising curses with growing efficiency. Like a tireless, nuclear-powered mule, he kept earning money to support the household. Toji couldn't help but feel he had made the right choice returning to raise his kids. The lump sum he'd once sold to the Zen'in clan couldn't compare to this steady, long-term stream. He had, without doubt, a good son. Tokyo Jujutsu High. After completing a mission, Megumi ran into his homeroom teacher, Gojo Satoru, who happened to be in the middle of a discussion with his uncle, Shinsuke Zen'in. I'll be away on a business trip, Gojo said, that smug grin never leaving his face. I'm leaving things at Jujutsu High to you for the time being. Don't let anything go wrong. Shinsuke shot him a sidelong glance. A business trip? Sounds more like a vacation on the school's dime. But why tell me? I couldn't care less where you run off to. Ah, don't say that. We're colleagues, aren't we? Gotta look out for each other. Gojo chuckled, clearly amused by something only he found funny. But when his jokes didn't get a rise out of Shinsuke, his smile faded into something more serious. Fine, truth is, I just have this feeling something's coming. Can't explain it, but my gut's telling me the calm won't last. Gojo had always trusted his instincts, and right now, the eerie stillness of the jujutsu world bothered him. Ever since the night parade of 100 demons, things had been too quiet. With someone like him around, balance should never last long. Shinsuke smirked. So, even the strongest trusts his gut. Careful now, wouldn't want to see you chopped up into, what, 2.5 Gojos? Gojo blinked. 2.1 now? I'm being serious here. Before the banter could continue, Megumi approached. He had been about to slip away unnoticed but thought better of it. Uncle. Gojo-sensei. What are you talking about? Oh, Megumi, Gojo waved casually. Just talking over some business with your uncle. Heading off to another exorcism? It's the mission you assigned me yesterday, Megumi replied evenly. Oh, right. The retrieval of that special grade cursed object, yeah? Important one. If you run into trouble, remember to ask your uncle for help. Gojo then turned to Shinsuke, his grin returning. Speaking of, I'm leaving soon. That mission's in your hands now. Special grade cursed object, your favorite. You won't refuse, will you? Shinsuke rolled his eyes. If it were a special grade curse, he'd be interested. But a cursed object? Boring. You couldn't fight it, couldn't kill it. If it weren't for the fact that this particular object was one of Sukuna's fingers, he wouldn't have spared it a glance. I'll be going then. Take your time. Megumi gave a polite nod before excusing himself. He knew when adults were talking, it was best for a kid not to linger. Time to retrieve the object. Watching his student's back retreat, Gojo stroked his chin and muttered, hard to believe that kid's Toji's son. Polite, well-mannered, talented, doesn't add up. Probably takes after his mother, Shinsuke replied dryly. He agreed, Megumi was nothing like Toji. Then again, it was possible Megumi only behaved like this in front of them. Who knew how he was with outsiders? Anyway, enough chatter. I've got a trip to catch. I'll bring back souvenirs. And remember my warning, stay alert. With a lazy slap on Shinsuke's shoulder, Gojo turned and strode off. Originally, he'd planned to leave in a few days. But knowing there was another teacher around with nothing better to do, he decided he might as well depart immediately. At the very least, he intended to enjoy a full week abroad. Shinsuke Zen'in brushed the spot where Gojo had clapped him, face full of distaste. Still so damn rude, souvenirs from Africa? As if I'd want that junk. Meanwhile, Megumi Fushiguro arrived at a small schoolyard, where a sealed crate had been left upright on the grass. He frowned. They left a special grade cursed object lying around in a place like this? Too careless. He opened the crate, then froze. Huh? It was empty. He shoved his head inside, searching frantically. Nothing? Pulling back out, Megumi scanned the area. He searched the ground, the nearby bushes, the surrounding path. Still no trace of the sealed object. No way. His expression hardened. Could someone have already taken it? If a special grade cursed object fell into the hands of an ordinary person, it would spell disaster. Without hesitation, he dialed his uncle. Didn't find it, huh? Keep looking, Shinsuke said flatly on the other end. Ask around if anyone's seen it. That thing is dangerous. If a civilian has it, that's trouble. Click. The line went dead. Megumi stared at his phone. He hung up? So, he was supposed to track it down alone? Why did his uncle feel just as unreliable as Gojo-sensei? Still, he didn't dare defy Shinsuke. All he could do was grit his teeth and keep searching for the cursed object. By the next day, after combing the city non-stop, Megumi finally narrowed down the trail. His target was a well-known athlete at West Middle, nicknamed the Tiger of West Junior High. He found him at the hospital. You must be Yuji Itadori, Megumi said, introducing himself as he cornered the boy. I'm Fushiguro, from Jujutsu High. There's something we need to talk about. Oi, I'm busy greeting here, Yuji grumbled, clearly annoyed. Megumi dragged him into a shadowy corner. His tone turned sharp. There's no time. The cursed object in your possession is extremely dangerous. Hand it over, now. Cursed object? Yuji blinked in confusion. But when Megumi showed him a photo on his phone, realization dawned. Oh, that thing? Yeah, I found it. But it's not with me. My senpai have it, they seem to really like the creepy finger. Is it really that dangerous? To him, it was just a weird, shriveled finger wrapped in cloth. Hardly terrifying. Megumi's brow furrowed. He explained tersely. That object was originally used to repel curses. But its seal has degraded. Now, instead of repelling them, it attracts them. Mishandled, it could unleash a disaster. Yuji scratched his head, then casually tossed him the empty box. Well, the fingers with my senpai. If you want it, you'll have to ask them. Doesn't bother me. Oh, and I think they're planning to unwrap the bandages tonight. What? Megumi's face drained of color. He stared at the empty box in horror. Yuji tilted his head, still oblivious. That bad? I mean, if it's not too serious, I'd rather get back to handling my grandpa's funeral. Megumi immediately pulled out his phone, trying to reach his uncle while glaring at Yuji. Bad doesn't begin to cover it. If they unwrap that finger, they'll die. Chapter 58, The King of Curses. Already started, huh? Shinsuke Zen'in hung up the phone, then calmly returned to slurping his ramen. Not a trace of urgency. With Megumi's strength, plus that hot-blooded jock of a kid, they should be able to muddle through this mess. He finished his noodles at a leisurely pace. Only after the sky had gone completely dark did he finally stretch and stroll toward the school where the incident had broken out. Meanwhile, Megumi Fushiguro and Yuji Itadori were locked in a desperate fight against a curse. Yuji! Get them out of here! Megumi shouted from the open-air corridor. Curses can only be exorcised with cursed energy. A normal person can't fight one. Yuji, however, was darting and weaving with freakish agility, his fists and feet hammering at the Grade 2 curse. He was fast, strong, and reckless, but still just a human. Face grim, Yuji barked back, "If I run now, I'll regret it forever. My grandpa told me, I have to save people." His words were cut short as the curse caught him in its jaws, wrenching from his grip the sealed special-grade object. The grotesque finger arced into the air. Both Yuji and the curse's hungry maw turned toward it. Pinned in the monster's grasp, Yuji did the only thing he could. He lunged forward and bit down on the finger himself. Wah! Megumi's eyes went wide. The curse screeched. Yuji clamped his jaw tight, the decayed digit dangling between his teeth. The sight was absurd, boy and curse locked in a grotesque tug-of-war. Eat it? Megumi's voice cracked. That thing grants curses more power. But Yuji had already drawn his own conclusion. If eating it gives them power, then maybe it'll work for me, too. And before Megumi could stop him. Crunch. Yuji swallowed Sukuna's finger. No! Megumi's heart dropped. That was a special-grade cursed object, a remnant of the King of Curses himself, Ryomen Sukuna. To a human, it should be nothing less than pure poison. Yuji should be dead already. Instead, boom! Power exploded through Yuji's body. Black markings seared across his skin, nails sharpening into talons. With a single slash of his hand, the curse before him was shredded into bloody chunks, purple ichor raining down the corridor. Yuji receded, Sukuna emerged. Foo. Ha 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 ha. The laughter was manic, inhuman. Extra eyes opened beneath his own, glimmering with cruel intelligence. He tore away Yuji's shirt, revealing a body tattooed in living, writhing markings. Ah, fresh air after all these centuries. Disgusting, filthy curses. Where are the humans? Where are the women? Megumi's stomach sank. The worst-case scenario, it's happened. Sukuna has incarnated inside him. At that moment, another voice drawled from the rooftop scaffolding. So this is the great King of Curses? Doesn't seem all that bright to me. Shinsuke Zen'in crouched lazily above, watching the scene unfold, lips twitching in faint amusement. Guess being sealed away that long scrambled his brain. Uncle! Megumi called out in relief. He had been ready to gamble his life, but with Shinsuke here, the burden finally eased. Then, slap. Yuji suddenly smacked himself across the face. His own voice came tumbling out, bewildered. Hey! Who the hell are you, and why are you trying to steal my body? Impossible. Sukuna's eyes widened in disbelief. The brat still had his own consciousness? But before he could resist, control of the body was yanked back into Yuji's hands. Megumi, there's something inside me now, Yuji muttered. Then he blinked at Shinsuke. And who's this guy? This is my uncle, Megumi said tersely. A teacher at Jujutsu High. Then he turned to Shinsuke, voice tight. Uncle, what do we do with him? By the usual rules, Yuji Itadori should already be dead, or exorcised on the spot. To let Sukuna roam free inside a human body was madness. Shinsuke eyed Yuji, his voice even. Kid, can you guarantee you won't let that thing inside you take control? Yuji scratched his head, thinking it over. Pretty sure I can. Good enough. Shinsuke nodded. You've got 2 days. Handle your business, then report to Jujutsu High. His gaze flicked to Megumi. You stick with him. Don't let him out of your sight, not for a single second, until he's standing at the school gates. Huh? Me? Megumi sputtered. Megumi's cheek twitched slightly. He was supposed to keep watch over this guy, a walking time bomb who could turn into a special grade curse at any moment. His uncle was seriously overestimating him. That's right, you, Shinsuke said evenly. From today on, he'll be your classmate. Of course, he could also become your enemy one day. But for now, he's your classmate. I'm counting on you. Your uncle's had a long day, time for me to get some rest. You take this kid back. And with that, Shinsuke Zen'in vanished without a sound. As for letting Yuji release Sukuna to play, he considered it utterly unnecessary. Knowing Yuji could still control his own body was all the proof he needed. And honestly, a Sukuna with only one finger wasn't nearly enough to pique his interest. Besides, killing it wouldn't even grant him any experience points. After Shinsuke left, Megumi and Yuji stood staring at each other, both silent. Let's go. Once you've finished your business, you're coming with me to Jujutsu High. Megumi sighed inwardly. He had no choice but to yield to his uncle's orders. During his time at the school, he'd heard plenty of rumors about the man, defying the higher-ups, being labeled one of the 2 great troublemakers, the infamous Curse Slayer. Not exactly the kind of reputation that screamed reliable. Megumi? Yuji scratched his head. What even is this Jujutsu High place? Do I really have to go there? The day had been absurd enough already, questions were stacking up faster than he could process them. Jujutsu High is a school that trains sorcerers, Megumi explained curtly. You swallowed a special grade cursed object. I don't know how you're still conscious, but you've gained the power to exorcise curses because of it. At Jujutsu High, you can actually learn to control that power. But whether you survive... He trailed off, expression darkening. That's another question. From what I've heard, the old men in the higher-ups see someone like you as a kill on sight. The King of Curses wasn't a joke. There was no way the higher-ups would allow something so dangerous to roam unchecked. So what, you're saying I have to die? Yuji pointed at himself, eyes wide. His grandfather's dying words echoed in his mind. Don't die like some nobody, fading away without meaning. Die in a way that matters, with people remembering you. Chapter 59, The Forced Recall of 2.5 Gojo Satoru. Megumi glanced at Yuji, his tone steady. I'll have my uncle protect you. After spending the day with him, Megumi had already decided it wasn't right for Yuji to just be executed. It was far too unfair. At this point, he could only leverage connections to try and sway the higher-ups. There were only 2 people who could actually make that happen, his homeroom teacher Gojo Satoru, and his uncle Zen'in Shinsuke. With Gojo out of the country, that left only one option. Thanks, Megumi. Yuji still couldn't understand why everyone wanted him dead, but if someone was willing to protect him, wasn't that basically a lifesaver? 2 days later, Megumi brought Yuji to Jujutsu High right on schedule to handle enrollment. Yuji Itadori, right? Come with me. Shinsuke eyed him with mild irritation. This was supposed to be Gojo's job, but the guy had conveniently skipped town. Oh, okay. Yuji looked around curiously, then asked. Mister, Megumi said I might get the death penalty. Is that true? You're currently the vessel of Ryman Sukuna, the king of curses. By all rights, the higher-ups shouldn't allow you to exist. But considering how rare Sukuna's vessel is, they've decided to let you ingest all 20 of his fingers before killing you, thereby erasing the king of curses completely. Of course, that decision only existed because Shinsuke had personally threatened them. Otherwise, those old men would have executed Yuji without hesitation. So I'm dead either way, huh? Yuji let out a breath, then grinned faintly. At least this way I die for something. That's not so bad. Wait. 20 fingers? I'm not about to eat his toes, am I? No way I'm doing that. Yuji froze at the thought. 10 fingers made sense, but toes too? The idea made him queasy. Sukuna, the king of curses, had 4 arms. 20 fingers. Who in their right mind would turn toes into cursed objects? Haha, fair enough. That's a relief. Yuji chuckled nervously. Hey, mister, are there really that many curses out there? Even now, his understanding of curses was still fuzzy. Shinsuke gave him a quick rundown of curse basics. Just then, a mouth opened on Yuji's cheek, its tone dripping with arrogance. Hey, sorcerer. Care to make a deal? Slap. Sorry, mister, Yuji winced. Sometimes this guy pops out on his own. Though Sukuna couldn't seize control of his body outright, he'd occasionally emerge like this. Oh? And what kind of deal? Shinsuke's lips curled slightly. He was curious what the so-called king of curses would propose. Restrain this brat and let me take over completely, the mouth on Yuji's hand said, voice laced with sincerity. In return, I'll give you the chance to follow me. Pfft. Ha 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 ha. Shinsuke burst out laughing. Didn't expect the king of curses to be so entertaining. You almost sound human. Unfortunately, I'm no sorcerer, just an ordinary man. Take your offer to that white-haired guy instead. I see. Fine. I'll remember you. Sukuna marked Shinsuke in his mind. Someday, he would make this ordinary man pay for the insult of calling him human. He was the king of curses, 4 arms, 2 faces. He may have once been human, but he despised being called one. Mister, is this guy really that strong? Yuji didn't actually know how powerful Sukuna was. But the titled king of curses said a lot. He's strong, Shinsuke replied casually. Back in the golden age of Jujutsu, all the sorcerers combined still couldn't defeat him. Even after death, no sorcerer in later generations has ever managed to destroy his fingers. Yuji's expression stiffened. What if I eat all 20 fingers and then lose control? Is there anyone who can stop him? Yuji was already thinking ahead, worried about what might happen in the future. Shinsuke said calmly, relax. You need to understand, right now, in the Jujutsu world, there's someone called the strongest sorcerer. If it comes to it, he'll step in. Really? The strongest sorcerer? What's his name? Can I meet him? Yuji's eyes lit up with curiosity. You'll find out soon enough. He'll also be your teacher. His name is 2.5 Gojo Satoru. Don't forget it. 2.5 Gojo Satoru? What kind of weird name is that? Before Yuji could question further, they had already arrived at Principal Yaga's office. The room was dimly lit, only a few candles flickering in the corners. Principal Yaga, the kid's yours now. I'll leave the rest to you. Shinsuke gave Yuji a wry smile. Do your best to pass the evaluation. Then, without another word, he stepped outside and closed the door behind him. Mister? Yuji turned around, but his escort was already gone. Left alone, he looked around nervously until his eyes landed on the man at the desk, busily sewing a small doll. Hello! I'm Yuji Itadori. Yaga paused his stitching, lifted his head, and gave Yuji a steady look. So you're the one. Why do you want to come to Jujutsu High? About half an hour later, Yuji staggered out of the office, sporting a few bruises. Looks like you passed. Megumi leaned casually against the doorframe. Megumi! You're here? Where's Mr.? It's Professor Zen'in, Megumi corrected with a sigh, then turned to lead the way. Come on. I'll take you to the dorms. His expression was full of annoyance. Clearly, once again, he'd been stuck with all the grunt work. Oh, okay. Not long after, Yuji arrived at his room. His eyes widened in delight. Whoa! This place is awesome, it's a single room. Megumi explained, most of the second and third years are out, so the place feels empty. Even if they were here, there aren't that many of them. Anyway, I'm next door. Call me if something comes up. Got it! Excited, Yuji began unpacking, slapping up a poster of his favorite woman on the wall, then carefully arranging his things. Tomorrow, he'd start learning how to use cursed energy and begin the search for Sukuna's fingers. The next morning, Yuji awoke to find two towering men standing in his room. Holy crap! Mr. And, who's this guy? The sudden sight nearly made him jump out of bed. This, Shinsuke said with a smirk, is the one I told you about yesterday, the strongest sorcerer alive. Introduced with clear emphasis, the tall man at his side was none other than Gojo Satoru. Shinsuke had spent the previous night forcing him to cut his trip short and come back. There was no way he was going to let Gojo treat a work trip like some vacation. Oh! So you're Professor 2.5 Gojo. Nice to meet you. I'm Yuji Itadori. Yuji straightened up instantly, his eyes gleaming with admiration. This was the man who could fight Sukuna head-on. Whether Yuji succeeded or failed from here on out depended on him. What 2.5 Gojo? I'm Gojo Satoru, your jujutsu teacher. Gojo rubbed his chin, giving Yuji a long, assessing look. His expression turned puzzled. Well, he really did merge with Sukuna. He had thought Shinsuke just dragged him back out of spite, annoyed he'd taken time off. But no, this time, the bastard was telling the truth. Chapter 60, Sukuna Gets Toyed With, Part 1. Can you bring him out? Gojo's voice was calm but serious. He needed to personally confirm whether Yuji could truly control his body. I think so. Yuji hesitated, then nodded. Good. Then come with us. The three of them stepped into the hallway, just as Megumi came out of the next room. He froze at the sight of his uncle and Gojo walking Yuji along like some kind of escort squad. Uncle? Gojo-sensei? Perfect timing, Shinsuke said, clamping a hand down on his nephew's shoulder before he could retreat. You're coming too. Let's go take a good look at the King of Curses. Megumi stared blankly. Great. Should have stayed in bed. Wait, when did you even get back, Gojo-sensei? He asked cautiously. Just now. Pretty fast, huh? Gojo beamed. I even brought souvenirs. Don't forget to pick them up later. Megumi had no words. Not long after, Yuji followed the group out to the training field. Gojo stretched lazily, loosening his shoulders. All right, let him out. And remember, when I say stop, you stop. Got it. Yuji closed his eyes, sinking into that strange emptiness. When they snapped open again. Boom! A surge of cursed energy roared out. Black tattoos crawled across his skin. His mouth curled into an arrogant grin. You brat, this will be the last decision you'll ever regret. Sukuna was back. This time, he was ready, no way he'd let that punk snatch his body back again. So, you're Sukuna? Gojo tilted his head, still warming up. A sorcerer? Don't think freeing me earns you gratitude. Sukuna's gaze swept the area, and stopped when he spotted Shinsuke. His eyes narrowed. Again? This man, utterly ordinary. Not a shred of cursed energy. Yet he stood there, watching calmly. Fine. I'll crush the white-haired sorcerer first. Then, I'll kill you. The threat was naked. Human, curse, it made no difference. If Sukuna wanted to kill, he killed. If he wanted to play, he played. No rules. Oh, impressive, Shinsuke muttered, scratching his ear. Then go ahead and deal with the kid first. He annoys me too. Sukuna's expression hardened, eyes sharpening. What an infuriating bastard. Oh ho! You think he's annoying too? Gojo's grin widened. How about we beat him up together first? Are you two making fun of me? Sukuna's tone dropped, low and cold. He decided not to waste more words. His hand slashed the air. Shhhhk. The field split open. Deep gouges tore through the ground, smoke and dust erupting as his slicing technique engulfed Gojo. Next, it's your turn. Sukuna turned, eyes locking on Shinsuke with confidence. Cough, cough. The smoke cleared. Gojo emerged, fanning the air with a look of distaste. Hey, don't wreck the property. If Principal Yaga makes me pay again, I'll be pissed. What? Sukuna's eyes narrowed in disbelief. His slash hadn't even scratched him. He lunged, fist cocked, aiming to crush him. Seeing through Sukuna's movements, Gojo clapped his hands and instantly shifted behind him. His face showed nothing but boredom. Like Zen'in Shinsuke, he couldn't muster a shred of interest in a Sukuna with only one finger's worth of power. After toying with him for a few casual exchanges, Gojo waved dismissively. Yuji, that's enough. Sukuna still wanted to fight, but a sudden tremor in his chest froze him. In the next moment, Itadori Yuji easily wrested back control of his own body. What is this kid? Sukuna muttered in disbelief. Someone, actually suppressing his soul? Just before being forced back down, his eyes locked on Gojo. I'll remember you. No matter the era, there were always one or two sorcerers who stood above the rest. Perhaps, he thought, this one could make things interesting. It's over? Yuji blinked as his senses returned. The strange dual consciousness left a lingering unease. Having someone else in my body feels really weird. It's done, Gojo replied. I've confirmed you can stay in control. Now it's time to get to work. He turned toward Megumi. You too. Let's go meet your new classmate. Got it. Megumi sighed. Another errand. Figures. I'll be heading out, he said, nodding toward his uncle. Shinsuke gave a brief nod back. He had his own matters to handle, he wasn't about to waste time playing chaperone. As soon as Gojo left with Yuji and Megumi, Shinsuke's phone rang. Ring ring ring. He picked up lazily. Yeah? Miss me, came a bright, familiar voice. No. Heh. The caller's tone shot up with mock outrage. Just you wait. Where are you right now? Jujutsu High. Perfect. I need to see that old hag anyway. Stay put, I'll be there in half an hour. Didn't miss me, huh? Let's see how you like it when I show up. The line went dead. Shinsuke sighed. Of course, he already knew Yuki Tsukumo was due back today. He hadn't bothered to greet her at the gates, independent women didn't need chauffeuring, after all. 30 minutes later, the roar of a motorbike echoed through the campus. Yuki swung off her little motorcycle, killed the engine, pulled off her helmet, and flicked her hair back in one smooth motion. She might be broke, but damn if she didn't look cool. Now, she said with a teasing grin, spreading her arms toward him, do you miss me? Shinsuke rolled his eyes. It's only been a few months. What's there to miss? He had long since grown used to her antics. Every New Year she showed up to cling for weeks, sometimes even cutting overseas trips short just to drop in again. He seriously wondered, is this really how someone planning to save the world spends her time? A few months is plenty, Yuki pouted, stepping forward to wrap her arms around him, pressing her face against his chest. Even a day apart feels like 3 years. You don't miss me? Fine, I'll miss you enough for both of us. So, what could possibly bring the great special grade sorcerer back in person this time? Shinsuke's hand absent-mindedly pinched her cheek, soft, pliant, almost fun to knead. You being here is reason enough, Yuki said, tilting her head up, eyes sparkling playfully. Do I need any other excuse? TCH, enough nonsense. Shinsuke smacked her lightly on the hip, forcing a straight face. Back in the day, he'd always been the one doing the teasing. Now the tables had turned, even Yuki dared to provoke him. Heh, fine. I'll let you off for now, she teased, voice dropping with a dangerous lilt. But tonight? I'll teach you a proper lesson. Her expression sobered just slightly. Truthfully, I came back because I uncovered some disturbing intel. I need to confirm it with the old granny. You coming? The old granny? You mean Tenjin? That's right. Then I'll tag along. Her tea leaves are good, I might as well grab a couple packs while we're there. Shinsuke agreed without hesitation. Chapter 61, Kenjaku's Plan. Inside the Star Corridor Palace. Zen'in Shinsuke and Yuki Tsukumo barged in without the slightest hesitation. Oi, old hag! You're not even coming out to greet us? Yuki never had much respect for Tenjin, manners were the last thing on her mind. At the sound of her voice, one of the countless sliding doors creaked open. The two exchanged a glance. Let's go. They stepped through into Tengin's chamber. Just like years ago, nothing had changed, still the lair of the ultimate shut-in. A nuisance, Tenjin murmured, looking up at them with no expression at all. And another nuisance who despises me. Quite the pair. Shinsuke and Yuki noted the change in her. Her face no longer bore a single trace of humanity. If one didn't know better, they would think she was already a curse. Yuki blinked. So you've already crossed that line, huh, old hag? You've really become a cursed spirit. Indeed, when Riko Ammonine never merged with Tenjin, she had failed to find another solution. Without a vessel, her body inevitably evolved, drifting further from humanity. Now, the only thing preserving her mind was the barrier itself. You're right, Tenjin admitted. Which makes the situation dangerous. If Kenjaku learns what I've become, he'll make his move. She poured out 2 cups of tea, sliding them across the table as her calm words carried a heavy weight. If I fall into Kenjaku's hands, the world will end. Kenjaku's just a lunatic, Yuki said coldly. 1,000 years of scheming, of course he'll act in this era. Indeed, Kenjaku had spent centuries experimenting, searching for the perfect evolution of humanity and curses. Every attempt had failed. But after countless failures, he had finally found a solution. Merge them. With Tengin's ability, he could force every human and every curse to evolve together, birthing a new ultimate species. That's fine by me, Shinsuke said flatly. I've been looking for him anyway. Whether the world burned or not wasn't his concern. But with his niece still lying unconscious, that was something he couldn't ignore. Tenjin frowned. Boy, I know you're strong. But don't underestimate Kenjaku. That man never acts unless he's absolutely certain. Though she despised Shinsuke's rude ways, she still warned him, because she could sense he might become a weapon against her ancient enemy. Shinsuke didn't answer. If he hadn't known Kenjaku, he'd already be on guard. Any creature that had lived and plotted for 1,000 years was no trivial opponent. Yuki smirked and leaned back. Old hag, you've lived just as long. And you're afraid of him? Shouldn't it be an even match? Tenjin fell silent. How could they compare? She had spent centuries in seclusion, sleeping and maintaining barriers. Kenjaku, on the other hand, had spent those same centuries weaving schemes, manipulating powers, and constantly honing his edge. They weren't on the same playing field. Enough about him, Tenjin said at last. Yuki. tell me why you've come back. Yuki crossed her legs, lounging like a mob boss on the couch. Overseas, I found some disturbing signs. They might be connected to Kinjaku. The discussion stretched for over an hour. When it finally ended, Shinsuke and Yuki left together, helping themselves to an entire box of Tengen's tea on the way out. After they were gone, Tengen sat in silence, her gaze heavy with foreboding. So, the day is finally coming, isn't it? Outside, Shinsuke asked, where to now? Yuki tapped her chin. Still early. Let's eat first. She tossed him the keys to her bike with a grin. A stolen moment of two-person freedom was worth more than any prophecy of doom. Shinsuke took the keys, paused for 2 seconds, and said with a grin. Let's go. I'll treat you to a banquet, the kind that doesn't cost a dime. He revved up Yuki Tsukumo's bike, and with her clinging on behind him, sped through the city streets. It was time to show her off. Considering she was technically his sister-in-law, Toji wouldn't dare serve them the cheapest set menu. Hey, don't go so fast in the middle of the city. What if the cops pull us over? Yuki tightened her arms around his waist, stealing a glance at the speedometer with concern. They'd have to catch me first. Shinsuke smirked and accelerated. Racing without the fear of death, it was exhilarating. And if the police really did stop him? Big deal. No license, no paperwork, he'd just dumped the blame on Jujutsu High. Special grade sorcerers had their own privileges, after all. Not long after, they pulled up to Toji's restaurant. The moment Shinsuke spotted his younger brother inside, he relaxed. Today's fancy meal? As good as stolen already. He strolled up to the counter, knocking on it casually. Boss, menu please. From the kitchen, Toji's voice rang out without even looking up. Oi, Shoji, bring out yesterday's leftovers. You've got to be kidding me. Shinsuke's voice jumped a few octaves in indignation. When Toji finally looked up, ready to tear into his freeloading brother, he froze. Because standing right next to Shinsuke was a striking blonde woman, her arm hooked naturally around his. Yuki flashed Toji a smile. Hello, Toji. I'm his girlfriend, Yuki Tsukumo. Toji's face went blank. For a moment, his brain stalled. Then a creeping sense of dread welled up inside him. Damn it, if he'd known this was going to happen, he never would have come to the shop today. Looked like this meal was going to bleed him dry. Nice to meet you, sister-in-law. He forced himself to sound polite, then immediately shouted to the back, Shoji. Tell the kitchen, full spread. Top quality. Don't hold back. What choice did he have? His shameless brother had actually brought a girlfriend. As the younger brother, he had to at least put on a show. Though the name Yuki Tsukumo did ring a bell. Wasn't she some big-shot sorcerer? Shinsuke beamed, utterly at ease. Knew you'd come through, Toji. Appreciate it, little bro. Toji's face darkened, his mood sour. Don't listen to him, Yuki added with a small laugh. Really, simple dishes would have been fine. No. It's fine. It's my pleasure, Toji forced a smile, every word tasting like ash. Alright then, we'll just sit and wait for the food. Shinsuke led Yuki to a table and then glanced back at his brother. Hey, Toji, why don't you join us? You go ahead. I've already eaten, Toji said through clenched teeth, still smiling. This was too much. He needed to make Megumi keep Shinsuke busy somehow, otherwise this parasitic older brother was going to keep showing up to freeload. Sure, the restaurant was doing well and he wasn't strapped for cash, but it was the principle of the thing. Yuki, meanwhile, eyed the spread of luxury dishes being laid out and swallowed hard. This feels wrong. Shouldn't we pay? If you want to pay, go ahead. I don't have money, Shinsuke said without hesitation. Then forget it. I won't pay either. Honestly, she didn't even have enough cash for a return trip. Shinsuke had fronted her travel fare. There was no way she could afford a meal like this. Better to just freeload with him. Chapter 62, The Cursed Womb. Let's go! With a toothpick in his mouth, Zen'in Shinsuke strolled out with Yuki Tsukumo, carefree as ever, no hint of paying for their massive feast. Toji's lips twitched violently. He still had to stand at the door and see them off, which only made him feel more bitter. As their figures disappeared, his mood calmed. Yuki Tsukumo. No wonder the name sounded familiar. A special grade sorcerer, huh? He finally recalled the eccentric special grade from Jujutsu High, the one who never took missions and had a rocky relationship with the higher-ups. Actually, she's kind of perfect for him. Thinking about his brother's impossible personality, Toji figured the two would surprisingly get along. At least he no longer had to worry about his brother's lifelong prospects. In a way, that was good news. Meanwhile, Shinsuke revved his bike, glancing at the sky. It was still early, plenty of time to show Yuki around. Where to next? I'm stuffed. Let's just go home and sleep. Yuki spread her arms wide, savoring the night wind. Not even a little walk? Home. Beauty's sleep comes first. Shinsuke's face twitched. If he didn't know her so well, he might have actually believed that. Still, he said nothing more. Home it was. Back at the Zen'in family compound, the place was spotless despite his long absence. Clearly, someone had been ordered to clean it regularly. Probably the old man's doing, since the family's treasured heir was his nephew now. Feels good to be home, Yuki said as she collapsed onto the sofa, her whole body sinking into relaxation. She never thought she'd actually have a place to call home. Let's get our marriage license tomorrow, she said suddenly, serious for once. What brought that up? Shinsuke blinked in surprise. Paperwork like that hardly mattered to people like them, didn't it? What? You don't want to? Yuki raised her fist, threatening. Whether you do or not, we're going. Whatever you say. Shinsuke sighed. I'm going to shower. I'm coming too. She bounced up, shoving him toward the bathroom with a mischievous grin. For the next 10 days, the two practically disappeared into each other, until a call from Jujutsu High cut their bliss short. Ring ring ring. Hello? Zen'in Sensei, it's me, Ijichi. Oh, Ijichi. What is it? Shinsuke straightened immediately. A cursed womb was discovered 3 hours ago. 5 victims are trapped inside with it. Based on predictions, if it matures, it will evolve into a special grade. Ijichi quickly laid out the situation. The first years have already gone into confirmed survivors. I'm worried it'll transform early, so... You want the first years to face a special grade? This mission was supposed to be Gojo-sensei's, but you know he can't stay at the school long term. Right now, only the first years are available. Ordinary sorcerers facing a special grade only had 2 options, flee or die. Got it. Send me the location. Shinsuke wasted no time. He changed clothes and grabbed his gear. A special grade curse was worth killing, he wouldn't let Sukuna steal the spotlight. Mission? Yuki asked, watching him head for the door. Just a small one. Then I'm coming too. We've been slacking long enough, I need to do some real work. Shinsuke only nodded. For all her carefree talk, he knew Yuki carried a strong sense of duty. He grabbed a cursed spear, and together they set out. As they mounted their bikes, Yuki called out with a teasing smile. Next time we come back, let's make a baby, yeah? Shinsuke froze for half a beat, then nodded. If you say so. Deal. She grinned, fastening her helmet before riding off. Her original plan had been to rid the world of curses before thinking about marriage or children. But curses had been around for thousands of years, and even if she'd found some leads, there was no guarantee she could end them completely. So why not build a family first, and then save the world? Shinsuke twirled his spear twice, watching her ride away, then turned and sped toward the cursed womb's location. At the same time, the first-year trio had already entered the building. Their mission: confirm and rescue any survivors. Special grade, can we really handle this? Nobara Kujisaki whispered, shivering as the crimson glow of the warped building pressed down on her. Barely a few weeks into school, and they were already thrown into a nightmare-level mission. No choice. This job is always short on manpower. With Gojo-sensei gone, it's on us, Megumi said, keeping calm. Don't panic. The divine dogs will warn us of danger. Wait, didn't the entrance just disappear? Itadori blinked. Sure enough, the way they'd entered was sealed off by twisting pipes of metal. What the hell? Megumi's face hardened. The entire building was now a barrier domain, a living, breathing construct of cursed energy. Since becoming a sorcerer, this was the first time he'd seen one on this scale. I swear this is where we came in. So what now? Are we stuck? Nobara asked nervously. Relax. The divine dogs can follow the scent. They'll get us out. Good boy. You hear that? You're amazing. Nobara and Itadori immediately knelt to rub the white dog's head, promising treats. Focus, you idiots, Megumi groaned, exasperated. This is a special grades lair. Can't they take this seriously for once? The three pressed on, eventually reaching a wide, empty chamber. Inside, one of the victims. Already dead. This is... Yuji's pupils shrank as he spotted the name tag on the corpse's uniform. It's that lady's son, the one waiting outside. Then we should bring him back. Yuji bent down, preparing to lift the body onto his back. At the very least, the grieving mother deserved closure. But Megumi stopped him. We still need to confirm the status of the others. Leave the body here. If we don't carry him out now, the exit might vanish, Yuji argued firmly. Then we won't be able to bring him back at all. I never said we'd come back. I meant to leave the corpse here. Megumi's frown deepened. He was never meant to be saved. I had no intention of bringing his body out. Yuji froze, then his brows knitted in anger. What do you mean never meant to be saved? The two clashed head-to-head, their voices sharp, the argument escalating, on the brink of a fight. Quit it, you idiots! Nobara rolled up her sleeves, her face twisted into fury. Can't you see where we are? This isn't the damn time. But the moment she stepped forward. Shoo up! The ground beneath her writhed, a mass of black cursed energy surging upward. It coiled around her legs and yanked her down into the floor. Huh? No, impossible? Megumi's eyes went wide. His divine dog hadn't given the slightest warning. He turned, and his heart sank. The white dog had already been fused into the wall, its head grotesquely jutting out, lifeless and stiff. Dead. Run! Now! We'll find Nobara later. Megumi shouted, his face pale. Because in that instant, the cursed womb had fully transformed. Chapter 63, Arrive in Time, One Sweep of the Spear. Next. Teacher Zen'in. You made it! When Ijichi saw Zen'in Shinsuke's figure, he visibly relaxed. With Shinsuke here, a freshly birthed special grade shouldn't be too much to fear, right? Looks like it's finished transforming, Shinsuke said, watching the enormous cursed energy spill out from the building. A slight smile tugged at his mouth. A newborn special grade was still a special grade, far beyond what a grade 1 could compare with. I'll go in and take a look. With that, Shinsuke shouldered his long spear and stepped into the duplex. At the same time, Yuji Itadori was already fighting the special grade curse. One arm was completely severed, only the thumb remained on the other. He had no chance. Yuji stared at the humanoid curse in front of him, terror welling up inside. Why had he stayed? Why had he become involved with jujutsu? Why had he allowed himself to become Sukuna's vessel? Doubt gnawed at him. When had he convinced himself he could shoulder such a responsibility? Why had he stirred himself into this mess? If the curse decided to toy with him, a single strike might tear him in two. No. I can't think like this. I have to hold on until Megumi and Nobara get out. Yuji forced himself calm and pushed the fear down. Even if he died, it had to be meaningful. That was the decision he had made. He pictured his grandfather's final scene and his resolve hardened. Cursed energy, he would use cursed energy. Remembering what Gojo had taught them about how cursed energy is formed, Yuji poured his fear into anger, tightened his fist, and charged. Negative energy flared as red curse power from his knuckles. Smack! His punch landed on the curse's palm and produced nothing, no reaction at all. Even now that he tasted cursed energy, he was no match for the curse. The humanoid curse blinked its round eyes, grinned, and slapped Yuji aside. Newly born curses treated humans like toys, they delighted in their torment. Meanwhile, Shinsuke entered the building and found a domain-like space where people were being besieged by curses. Boom! He kicked through the wall and stepped into a room filled with curses. Floating, grotesque masks watched the intruder. You the reinforcements from the school? Nobara Kujisaki perked up when she saw Shinsuke, relief plain on her face. She only had one nail left. Without help she would have died here. There were still too many things she wanted to do. She couldn't be eaten by these disgusting curses. You're Nobara Kujisaki, the new student this year. Shinsuke glanced at her, gripped his spear, planted his left foot forward, muscles bulging, and delivered a violent horizontal sweep into the air. Boom! The spear's tip unleashed a brutal shockwave. Every single minor curse floating above detonated and disintegrated into purple mist. You're safe now. You can leave, Shinsuke said as he turned to head toward the main area. That whole room hadn't contained a single grade 1, trash. He'd have skipped it if he'd known no one was in there. Gur! Wait up, mister. Nobara hurried to follow. Honestly, Shinsuke's one sweep had stunned her. She'd been chipping away at curses with single nails for ages, and he cleared them with one move. So this was what a proper sorcerer at the school was like, frightening indeed. Megumi! Fushiguro Megumi arrived with his black dog and froze when he saw Shinsuke standing beside Nobara. Uncle! You came? Uncle? That's your uncle? You actually have a relative that powerful? Nobara's eyes widened. Why hadn't they called this relative sooner, instead of sending 3 ranked new students into a death trap? Megumi, you're just in time. You and Nobara go out first, Shinsuke told Megumi, glancing at him. He wore a few scratches but was all right, and then sprinted upstairs. Got it! Nobara, let's go. Megumi grabbed Nobara and bolted for the exit. A special grade is far too dangerous to linger around. Megumi's priority was to inform Ajichi and get the safe perimeter extended. Hey, slow down. There's an uncle here, what are you afraid of? That man just killed a room full of curses with one swing. Nobara called after them, awed. Nobara was actually excited, she wanted to see how the others would handle a special grade curse. But Megumi's face was grave. Special grade curses aren't something to be taken lightly. Even if my uncle has a record of exorcising one, we can't just run in and make things worse. Megumi didn't know the full extent of his uncle's power. He'd only heard stories that Shinsuke Zen'in had once purified a special grade during a major operation, or that he'd slain countless curses during the night parade of 100 Demons incident. He'd never actually seen Shinsuke act in person. His mental image of his uncle was still rooted in family lore, like their father and like Senior Maki, someone born without cursed energy who nonetheless fights with overwhelming physicality. Still, if even Maki is Shinsuke's disciple, then surely Shinsuke can handle a special grade. Outside, rain drummed steadily and the barrier's effect made the world feel perpetually night. Megumi immediately ordered his black divine dog to send the signal. He and Yuji had agreed, if they escaped, Yuji would switch to Sukuna and face the curse. Megumi worried that if Shinsuke arrived late and Yuji didn't see the signal, Yuji might never summon Sukuna and could die trying. As an insurance, Megumi made sure the dog notified Yuji. If Yuji could freely switch Sukuna in and out, he should be able to snap back to control once Shinsuke showed up. At the other end, Yuji received the signal and switched to Sukuna without hesitation, no time to waste. Life mattered more than pride. Even though he hated Sukuna, he had to rely on that power now. What a hateful brat. Does he think I'm his lackey? Sukuna appeared, irritated more than impressed. He ignored the surrounding curses and seethed quietly. Yuji's behavior had clearly insulted him. Wait a moment, I should think about how best to make this brat regret it, Sukuna muttered as he tapped the shoulder of the special grade curse and schemed. An image of Megumi flashed across his mind. That kid is close to this brat. If I just kill him where he stands, the brat might prematurely take control and switch himself out. Sukuna considered the consequences. There was only one sensible move, he decided. A slow smile curved his lips. If he dragged this special grade curse over to the brat's close friend, that would be perfect. Let the friend be the one to experience the carnage. No, Sukuna didn't want to hand the kill to someone else. He wanted to twist things, to humiliate. He wouldn't do the predictable thing, he wouldn't let anyone else have the satisfaction of slaying the curse. Chapter 64, You open a domain in front of me? Do it like this, that'll make the brat regret it. Hey, let's go together and kill that brat. Follow me. Sukuna hatched a plan and strode out, beckoning the curse to follow. The curse, however, wasn't bright, it didn't even respond to speech. At the first sign of danger in Sukuna's aura, it leapt away. The special grade glared at Sukuna's retreating back, then brought its palms together. A concentrated ball of cursed energy built up between its hands. Ha! It hurled the pure cursed energy sphere at Sukuna in a sneak attack. Idiot! Sukuna glanced back, snapped his severed arm into place, and unconsciously used reverse curse technique to mend Yuji's limb. The cursed energy ball smashed into Sukuna's palm and dispersed like it had hit a barrier. Damn, I healed that arm too. Sukuna, realizing what had just happened, grew annoyed. Ah! The special grade cried in panic. This newly born special grade had never seen anything like it. It didn't even fully understand techniques yet, it couldn't comprehend that Sukuna could block its strongest strike with a single hand. Don't you like a walk? Sukuna put his hands in his pockets and looked casually at the humanoid curse. Curses usually stay near where they're born, right? Except the very strong ones. Then go die. In a blur, Sukuna struck. The special grade was slammed into the ground, a bridge of debris collapsed, and in an instant the creature's limbs were severed and pinned to the wall. Curses, you don't know, do you? We're all special grade too. Sukuna toyed with the thing. Even among special grades there are tiers. Despite Sukuna currently only having the power of 2 fingers, he could still crush this newborn special grade. Grah! The special grade strained, forcing its severed limbs to writhe and, astonishingly, they regrew. Ha ha! Healed, it sprang at Sukuna with a grin. Well then, aren't you happy? Want me to praise you? Sukuna taunted. Too bad, unlike humans, healing isn't some miracle for curses. Your understanding of what a curse is non-existent. Since that's the case, while I can move, I'll teach you. Sukuna calmly formed hand seals at his chest. This is what a true curse is. Domain expansion. Boom! Before Sukuna could properly show the newborn special grade how to use its curse, a ripping sound cut through the air. A spear tip sliced space itself with sonic cracks and in a single instant impaled the special grade's head. Its body was pinned to the wall. Ah! The creature screamed and clawed at the spear shaft, but the force that rode the spear had already destroyed its brain, resistance vanished in a heartbeat. Almost got you first, glad I arrived in time. Shinsuke had appeared just before Sukuna's strike landed. He stood over the corpse, removed a Sukuna finger embedded in the creature's chest, and the instant he did, the curse burst into purple-blue flame and burned away to nothing. Shinsuke frowned as he pulled up the weapon. What's going on? His scripture had not absorbed any cursed energy. The creature had given him no vital aura or blood power. He stared at the Sukuna finger in his hand and mulled it over. Could it be because of that finger? This special grade had been birthed by a Sukuna finger. If killing such creatures produced aura blood benefits, Shinsuke could have spawned and slaughtered them repeatedly. But it seemed the ones spawned this way were useless to him. So, these manufactured ones are worthless? What a piece of trash. He muttered that he'd been wasting his time. Swish! A transparent slash sliced from behind. Shinsuke moved back a hair, the blade missed and cut a deep crack in the wall. Don't get so worked up, you only lost one prey, right? A voice drawled. Shinsuke turned with a small smile. TCH. Not just some ordinary human, huh? Sukuna had noticed something about Shinsuke. The man was not a normal sorcerer. Is that some curse binding? Sukuna mused. Weird. He studied Shinsuke and quickly guessed a secret about his body. Looks like a body and curse binding user. Curious. Sukuna was intrigued and wanted a real fight, but he also figured the kid inside, Yuji, should be back in control by now. Sukuna stood with his hands shoved into his pockets, looking utterly indifferent. That brat had tricked him this time, fine. He'd just return the favor later. Brat, you can come out now. He shut his eyes, waiting for Itadori to resurface. But after a long silence, nothing happened. Brat? Stop shouting. He's probably passed out. For now, this body's yours to control. Shinsuke spoke slowly, his tone calm. This incident had hit Itadori hard, especially mentally. He likely hadn't recovered yet. Oh? Sukuna's grin widened into something twisted. You sure about that? So, it was finally his time to act freely? Then I'll start with you. Sukuna's eyes glinted as he turned to Shinsuke, his smile turning feral. After that, I'll kill this brat's friends. His hands moved to his chest. Domain EXP. You think I'm an idiot? Shinsuke's figure flickered like a blur, suddenly appearing right in front of Sukuna. His long leg lashed out like a whip. Boom! The grin on Sukuna's face hadn't even faded before the devastating kick connected. His arm and several ribs snapped in an instant. He was blasted away like a cannonball, smashing through wall after wall until he was hurled outside. Outside, in the pouring rain, Fushiguro and Kujisaki stood in the alley, eyes locked on the cursed building. The innate domain, it's gone. The special grade was exorcised. That's great. So we just wait for the old man and Itadori to come out, right? Kujisaki finally let out a breath of relief. Special grade curses were terrifying, too terrifying. Crash! Just as they relaxed, a thunderous crash shook the ground. A figure was sent hurtling out of the building and slammed into the street. The pavement split open into a jagged trench, and the figure lay crumpled in the debris, coughing up a mouthful of blood. Itadori? Kujisaki screamed, about to rush forward. Get back! That's not Itadori. Fushiguro yanked her back just in time, retreating several steps. His face was grim. That's not Yuji anymore. That's a curse, the special grade curse, Ryaman Sukuna. Chapter 65, Awakening Potential, Summoning the Ultimate Shikigami? New! With his hands clasped into seals, shadows surged behind Fushiguro Megumi. From the darkness, a crimson thunderbird rose, spreading its wings wide. Nobara, stay back. Something's wrong with Itadori. Crack! Sukuna slowly stood, flexing his body as reverse curse technique knitted his shattered bones back together. His face twisted with irritation. Another troublesome pest. His gaze swept to Fushiguro and Kujisaki, and suddenly, an amusing thought struck him. He tore away his tattered shirt, then, before their horrified eyes, drove his clawed hand into his own chest. With a grotesque grin, he yanked out Itadori's heart and crushed it in his palm. This brat can't take back control now. Even if he tries, without a heart, he'll die instantly. A cruel smile spread across his face. For Sukuna, it was a meaningless sacrifice. For Yuji, it was certain death. Before that man comes out, why don't I kill you two first? With a feral grin, Sukuna lunged straight at Megumi. Megumi's eyes hardened. He pressed his hands together again. Great Serpent! From the ground, a colossal snake lunged upward, clamping its jaws around Sukuna and hurling him skyward. Overhead, New Dove, unleashing bolts of violet lightning that rained down on Sukuna's body. From afar, Nobara gripped her hammer tight. Only one nail left. She'd have to wait for the perfect opening. Already fighting? Zen'in Shinsuke appeared at her side, watching the clash. Old man! What do we do? Itadori, he's lost his heart. Nobara's voice cracked. So decisive, huh? Shinsuke muttered, unfazed. Sukuna really is desperate for freedom. But he didn't intervene. This was a perfect chance to put pressure on Megumi, force him to dig out his hidden potential. Without pressure, progress would remain stagnant. Wait, you're just going to stand there? Nobara protested, glaring. Megumi's getting destroyed out there. Relax. My nephew's tougher than he looks. Shinsuke planted his spear in the ground and leaned against it, as though he were a spectator at a show. Ha ha ha. Not bad, brat. Your technique has potential, but it won't save you. Sukuna laughed as Megumi recalled his battered new, recognizing that the boy's Shikigami weren't simple summons. There was something more, something deeper. Pour everything into it. Don't think about stalling for time. These scratches mean nothing to me. Megumi wiped blood from his mouth, eyes narrowing. His gaze flicked toward his uncle, standing in the distance watching like it wasn't his problem. His lips twitched. Was he really expecting him to handle Sukuna? Megumi's fists clenched. Yuji had risked everything to stay behind against a special grade. Yuji had even argued with him over saving a total stranger. So why couldn't he do the same? He wasn't fighting just to meet his father's and uncle's expectations, or to inherit the Zen'in family. If he was truly a jujutsu sorcerer, then he had to protect people, without condition. His cursed energy flared violently. Both hands formed the stance for summoning. If that's the case, then I'll go all in. He had already used every Shikigami at his disposal. The only option left was his final trump card. With his uncle here, maybe, just maybe, he could risk it. Chanting incantation. Barabu, Yura Yura, Yatsuka. The cursed energy around him swelled, dense and suffocating. Yes! That's it! Sukuna's eyes gleamed with manic joy. Show me your true power, Megumi Fushiguro. Make me obsessed with you. At last, a worthy seed had appeared. Clang! A spear slammed down from above, stabbing into the ground between them. That's enough, Megumi. Stop the chant. No need to summon it. Shinsuke's voice cut through the tension. He could feel it, the boy's potential had already been unlocked. There was no need to unleash Maharaga, the ultimate Shikigami, only to let it maul his nephew. Megumi exhaled, relief softening his tense shoulders. Maharaga, Megumi had never summoned it, but as the ultimate Shikigami it would far surpass an ordinary special grade. And right now he did not have the strength to control Maharaga. Hey, aren't you going too far? Sukuna bristled at being cut off, he'd just begun to find this brat interesting. Sukuna, your job was to put pressure on Megumi and draw out his potential. That job's done. Zen'in Shinsuke scratched his ear, utterly unconcerned. You. Sukuna's eyes narrowed. There was something about this man's attitude that irked him. By the way, my nephew has enormous potential. He'll be one of Jujutsu's pillars someday. Don't you even think about taking an interest in him, and you'll die. Zen'in fixed Sukuna with a warning gaze, even if the curse probably wouldn't listen. Ha ha ha. Sukuna laughed, incredulous at being threatened, by a man with no cursed energy at all. With only 2 fingers worth of power, he was clearly outmatched for now. But once he reclaimed his full strength? Whether it was this fellow or that white-haired sorcerer, Sukuna would not so easily be cowed. "Alright, think you can run?" Zen'in called. "Yuji, time to wake up." Sukuna's dark markings faded, his expression cleared. "Megumi," Itadori's voice came, eyes opening. He looked at Fushiguro, still wanting an answer to their earlier argument. If he were to die, he wanted to know why Megumi saved him. "I'm a jujutsu sorcerer," Megumi said calmly. "I never regretted saving you." "Yeah, that's Megumi, always thinks things through more than I do." Itadori forced a shaky smile and scratched the back of his head. "But my choice wasn't wrong either." Blood gushed from the wound at his heart, his consciousness began to fray. Itadori's gaze clouded. "Sorry, time's about up. Megumi, Nobara, Gojo-sensei, and Uncle Zen'in, live long, all of you." Those were his last words. Then Itadori slumped into Megumi's arms. By the time Nobara reached them, she hadn't made it in time to see his final moments. "Let's go. Take the body back, get Shoko to check if there's anything she can do," Zen'in said as he patted Megumi on the shoulder. If he'd known the whole story, he might have offered Megumi a few words of comfort. But for now, the priority was to deliver the tragic news, and make sure Gojo knew what had happened. After all, how could a teacher be taking vacations when he couldn't even protect his students? Chapter 66, The Resurrection of Itadori. Inside the Tokyo Jujutsu High Infirmary, the room was eerily quiet. A white sheet covered Itadori Yuji's motionless body. Ichichi stood at the bedside, nervously reporting to Gojo Satoru. "I did warn them," he said, voice trembling. "I told them never to engage a special grade. I even contacted Zen'in-sensei out of precaution, just in case something went wrong, but I didn't expect this to happen." Gojo's voice was calm, too calm. "Didn't expect it? Or was it intentional?" Ichichi froze. Gojo's 6 eyes glimmered faintly behind his blindfold. "They made his death sentence indefinite," Gojo said flatly. "So now they're trying to give him a more respectable death, sending a first-year team to handle a special grade? That wasn't a mistake. That was murder dressed up as a mission." He sneered. "And conveniently, they did it while I was out of the country." "Will." Ichichi stammered. "At first, we weren't sure it would evolve into a special grade. I made the call to contact Zen'in-sensei after I realized the danger." He wiped the sweat from his forehead. "If he hadn't done that, there might have been more than one body lying here. TCH, finding out who's responsible is too much work. Maybe I'll just kill all the higher-ups," Gojo muttered. For once, the strongest sorcerer didn't sound like he was joking. His anger was palpable. He'd seen potential in Itadori, a kid willing to risk everything for others. And now? Dead because of the scheming of old men. The sudden appearance of that cursed womb, everything about it reeked of manipulation. "You? Acting on emotion?" A teasing voice broke the tension. Shoko Yeri walked in wearing her white lab coat, Zen'in Shinsuke following behind her. Shinsuke toyed with Sukuna's severed finger between his gloved hands and grinned. "I like your idea, Gojo. Go on, wipe out those wrinkled fossils. You've got my full support." Gojo's irritation spiked. "Oh, you're here too? And you let Itadori die on your watch? Don't tell me that was part of your plan." Hey, don't slander me," Shinsuke said lazily, scratching his neck. "I'm a model teacher who loves his students. But if the brat's host decides to off himself, what can I do? If Ichichi had called a bit earlier, this wouldn't have happened. So it's my fault now?" Ichichi muttered, pale and sweating. "Enough, you too." Shoko sighed, crossing her arms. "Stop picking on Ichichi. He's just the messenger here. Try being nice for once." Ichichi gave her a grateful bow. Caught between titans like Gojo and Zen'in, he never stood a chance. Shoko turned to the table and pulled back the sheet. So this is the vessel of Sukuna, huh? She murmured. No pulse, no residual flow of cursed energy. He's well and truly dead. Guess I can start the autopsy? Itadori's bare chest gleamed under the cold light. A deep, ragged wound marked where his heart used to be. Do as you like, Gojo said bitterly. Don't waste what's left of him. There was nothing more to say. Itadori's death was another stain on a system already rotten to the core. If the Jujutsu world was built on arrogance and bloodlines, then Gojo would tear it down, educate, rebuild, and raise a new generation strong enough to end this cycle of decay. He wouldn't let another Itadori happen again. Shinsuke noticed Gojo's silence and assumed it was grief. Don't be so glum, he said lightly. The kid might still come back. Gojo turned to him sharply. What do you mean? Shinsuke tossed the cursed finger up and caught it again. Come on, Gojo. He's Sukuna's vessel. You really think that guy would let his host stay dead? If Sukuna wants to live, he'll bring Itadori back himself. Gojo raised an eyebrow. And since when is Sukuna the charitable type? Before Shinsuke could answer, a low hum filled the room. The air grew heavy. And then... Ha! Itadori's body arched violently. His eyes flew open, crimson light flashing within them as the sheet fell away. Both Shoko and Ichichi stumbled back in shock. Gojo, however, smiled faintly beneath his blindfold. Welcome back, kid. The corpse lying on the dissection table suddenly sat upright with a loud gasp. Huh? Why am I completely naked? Itadori Yuji blinked, looking down at himself in confusion. Then, noticing the woman beside him in a lab coat, he awkwardly scratched his head. This is kinda embarrassing. Miss, who are you again? Shoko Yeri froze, scalpel still in hand. Her expression twisted into reluctant frustration. Damn it, just a second more and I could have finally dissected Sukuna's vessel. Zen'in Shinsuke gave a low whistle. See? Told you so. Gojo exhaled sharply, a relieved smile tugging at his lips. He stepped forward and waved casually. Yo, Yuji, welcome back to the land of the living. Itadori grinned sheepishly. Yeah, guess I'm back. Don't really remember why Sukuna saved me, but man, it feels good to be alive. Shinsuke smirked and turned to leave. Well, that's that. Since the kid's breathing again, my job here's done. Oh, and... He tossed something small and sinister toward Gojo. Sukuna's finger. Figure out what to do with it yourselves, he said lazily. Not like I can snack on pickled demon parts anyway. Gojo caught the finger between two glove fingers, his smile fading. Don't tell anyone outside that Yuji's alive. Not yet. Shinsuke waved over his shoulder, clearly uninterested in details. Shoko raised a tired brow. You think someone might target him again? Exactly, Gojo said, his tone now cold and pragmatic. Before the next move comes, I need him to have at least the bare minimum of combat ability. He looked down at Yuji, who was now fumbling for something to cover himself with. He's got potential. If I train him right, he might even surpass Hikari or Okatsu someday. Shoko gave a half-smile. Well, that saves me from rewriting the death report. Outside the infirmary, under the pale morning sky, Fushiguro Megumi and Kujisaki Nobara sat on the steps outside the building. Neither spoke. Their faces were blank, drained, the grief from Itadori's death still raw and heavy. Then, a sharp, irritated voice broke the silence. What's with those faces, huh? You two look like someone's dog just died. Are you mourning or something? They looked up to see a short-haired woman standing over them, a weapon case slung across her back, Zen'in Maki, freshly returned from a mission. Am Maki-senpai? Megumi asked quietly. Don't senpai me, brat, Maki snapped, crossing her arms. Use my name properly, little nephew. Behind her, Panda and Inumaki peeked nervously from behind a stone pillar. Maki, maybe, don't, Panda whispered urgently. What? I'm talking to them, Maki said, frowning. Panda wiped imaginary sweat from his furry face. You seriously don't know? One of the first years died yesterday. Bonito flakes, Inumaki added solemnly. What? Maki's face went pale. She spun on the two of them, voice rising. And you didn't tell me sooner? Do you have any idea how heartless I must have sounded just now? Well, Panda said meekly, you kinda did sound like a demon there for a sec. Baka Yro. Maki barked, slamming her palm against her forehead. This is all your fault for not warning me. The trio's chaotic argument carried down the hall, loud enough to echo through the quiet school. But inside the infirmary, behind closed doors, Itadori Yuji sat quietly, breathing, alive once more. And somewhere deep within him, Sukuna's cruel laughter echoed faintly, like the beating of a second heart. Chapter 67, The 4 Special Grades Dine at Toji's Restaurant. Who are they? Nobara asked in a whisper, watching the trio in front of them arguing like children. Fushiguro sighed, rubbing his temples as if this was giving him a headache. There are second-year seniors. He began his reluctant introductions one by one. Zen'in Senpai, master of close combat and one of the top users of cursed tools. Inumaki Senpai, he's a cursed speech user. Only speaks in rice ball fillings. And Panda Senpai, well, he's literally a panda. As for the only one actually worth respecting, Okatsu Senpai, he's currently overseas. Nobara tilted her head, pointing at Maki, who was still in the middle of scolding Panda and Inumaki. Wait, why did she call you nephew earlier? Fushiguro's face immediately darkened. Oh, that. He exhaled sharply. I used to belong to the Zen'in clan. Because of my father, I changed my surname to Fushiguro. She's technically my aunt, but in that family, I only acknowledge my uncle. He added after a pause, by the way, Zen'in Senpai was his student. Although the Zen'in family had treated him decently, Fushiguro never truly considered himself one of them. Until he became head of the clan on his own terms, he refused to accept that title, let alone call Maki or my aunt. Sorry for bothering you while you're still grieving, Panda said apologetically, bowing deeply. We didn't mean to intrude. Maki and Inumaki stood stiffly on either side of him like two guilty statues. Actually, we came to invite you to the Kyoto Sister School Goodwill event, Panda explained. The what now? Nobara blinked, clearly lost. It's a competition between our Tokyo Jujutsu High and the Kyoto branch, Fushiguro explained patiently. But, Panda Senpai, he continued, frowning, isn't that usually for second and third years? What's it got to do with us first years? Because, Maki said flatly, our 2 third years haven't shown up since their last big screw-up. So now, we're stuck bringing you brats instead. The 2 third years had technically been expelled, but their teacher had intervened to keep them on the roster. Still, knowing they were despised by the higher-ups, they'd chosen to work outside the school, taking missions on their own terms. So what exactly do we do in this exchange? Nobara still looked confused. In short, Panda said seriously, it's a 2-day battle between the Tokyo and Kyoto campuses. Day 1 is a team battle. Day 2, individual duels. That's about it. Wait, we fight each other? Nobara exclaimed, disbelief written all over her face. Exorcising curses isn't enough work already? We have to beat each other up for fun now? Of course, Maki said with a smirk. Aside from the no-killing rule, it's basically an all-out jujutsu war. She crossed her arms and added, and since we don't want you dying like idiots, we'll train you in secret. You'll participate, won't you? After all, your teammate's dead. Her words cut sharp and cold. Count me in. Me too. Fushiguro and Nobara answered together, firm and resolute. They would grow stronger, strong enough to never lose another comrade again. Fine, Nobara said after a moment. But if this training or event turns out boring, I'm quitting on the spot. Maki's grin widened. Feisty. I like that. Meanwhile, across town, Toji Fushigiro's restaurant welcomed some very unusual guests. The revived Sugura Geto strolled in casually, followed by 3 special-grade cursed spirits, Mahito, Jogo, and Hanami. Welcome, chirped the hostess at the door with a bright smile. Are you dining alone today, sir? Just me, Geto replied politely. She didn't even glance at the trio of monstrous spirits trailing behind him. Behind the counter, Toji froze mid-cleaning. His brows lifted slightly. What the hell, he muttered. Since when did my restaurant start attracting curses? 3 special grades, at once. Then his gaze narrowed as he recognized the man's face. Huh, so that brat's still alive? I thought he kicked it during the night parade of 100 demons. Guess not. Still, Toji quickly shrugged the thought away. Not his business, as long as they didn't wreck his shop, he couldn't care less. Should I call him? He muttered to himself, meaning his elder brother, the so-called curse killer. After a few seconds of thought, he dismissed the idea. If his brother came running, the place might turn into ground zero for a 4-way demolition between 3 special grades and 1 special grade sorcerer. And this was downtown Tokyo. He wasn't about to let his restaurant become a headline, Cursed Spirits level city block, local chef missing. No, thank you. At one of the corner tables, Geto sipped tea calmly, eyes half-lidded. So, what you're saying is, your leader wants to overturn the current balance between humans and curses? More or less, Jogo replied evenly, the flames on his head flickering. Humans are creatures of lies. Every movement, every word hides something false. Their malice, hatred, and fear, those are the only truths. The magma-like curse leaned forward, voice rumbling low. We, who were born from those pure emotions, are the real humans, the pure ones. Those fakes should all be erased. Geto's lips curved faintly. But right now, you're the ones being hunted to extinction. That's why we came to you, Jogo said. Tell us how to defeat the Jujutsu sorcerers, how to make us, the true humans, reign over the imposters. Toji, wiping down a glass behind the counter, watched the group quietly from afar. For special grades, sitting in my restaurant, he muttered under his breath. This city's doomed if they sneeze too hard. He sighed deeply. Yeah, definitely not getting involved in this one. And with that, he went back to polishing glasses, pretending the apocalypse wasn't brewing 2 tables away. A burst of flame welled from Jogo's volcanic crown, whenever the topic turned to humans, his face seethed with anger. These imposters, they all deserve to vanish. At those words, Sugura Geto's mouth curled into a small smile. Finally, they were getting to the point. He raised 2 fingers slowly. As long as you complete 2 conditions before the fighting begins, you can win. What conditions? Jogo asked. 1. Make the so-called strongest sorcerer in the Jujutsu world, Satoru Gojo, unable to fight. 2. Recruit Ryman Sukuna into our ranks, that is, get Yuji Itadori on board. Jogo scratched his head. Isn't that kid already dead? Who can say? Geto shrugged. While Geto and Jogo conversed, a 20-something waiter inside the restaurant was sweating bullets, his tray of drinks trembling in his hands. He could feel it, 3 emanations of pure dread sitting at Geto's table. Death seemed to hang over them. If he brought those drinks over, he was convinced he would die. He absolutely had to skip his shift. Work hard, save money, support 4 younger sisters through school, that was his life plan. Survival instinct told him to stay as far from that table as possible. I'll take that. Toji noticed the kid's panic and stepped in, taking the drinks from his hand. Thanks, boss, the waiter breathed, relief flooding him. He still muttered in a low voice, boss. I think we should get out of here. Business is important, but life matters more. Toji gave him a half smile. You felt them too, huh? Don't worry, I'll handle it. He hadn't expected one of his diligent employees to sense the presence of cursed spirits. Ordinary people only ever see that kind of thing when they're on the edge of death, right? Could it be? The smile faded from Toji's face. If these creatures could be perceived by a regular worker, then maybe, God help him, those guys were about to make a move against his staff. Chapter 68, You Don't Want To. We still can't kill him even if all of us attack? Jogo stared at Geto in disbelief. He couldn't accept that Satoru Gojo could be that powerful. He can escape easily. Or worse, he could exterminate you all. Geto's voice was calm. Instead of killing him outright, I suggest you seal him. Seal him? Jogo's eyes widened. He'd heard of certain forbidden items before. Excitement flickered across his face like magma about to erupt. Use the special grade cursed object, the prison realm. Prison realm? Jogo's expression turned feral, a bit of flame licked above his head. The restaurant's customers and staff suddenly felt the air grow hotter. Hey, don't make a scene, Geto warned. We can't afford to draw attention now. Jogo's temper flared, but before he could act, the restaurant owner, Toji, calmly stepped forward and placed a drink on the table where Jogo had been about to strike. Everyone, here's your order. Please make sure to settle your bill, Toji said with a smile, as if nothing supernatural was happening. The warning didn't sit well with Jogo. Flames flared around his hand, ready to incinerate the man, but in an instant his arm was severed, and the burning stump was stomped out under a boot wrapped with aura and blood power. This is a small business. It can't stand up to your chaos. And you don't want this to blow up here, do you? Toji leaned down, still smiling. If you cause a scene, I can promise at least one of you will stay here permanently. Jogo's arm regrew in moments. He'd underestimated the presence of a hidden expert, but the flame in his head only brightened. He was far from done. Just who do you think you are? A human with no cursed energy? Jogo snapped. Toji shrugged, unfazed. Me? And Geto, you really don't want Satoru Gojo knowing that someone like you is still alive, do you? Geto cut in, calm down. We can leave quietly. But you mustn't tell anyone about us. Toji raised an eyebrow. Fine. I'm just a civilian. You don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. He wanted only a quiet life, he didn't want his restaurant dragged into the cursed world. Geto smiled. Deal. The bond's made. Don't break it. With that, Geto rose and left with the 3 special-grade curses in tow. Wait. You haven't paid, Toji called after them. Geto paused only long enough to toss some money down, then left. Outside, Jogo asked, that powerless human, who was he? Why didn't you just kill him? Geto glanced back thoughtfully. That man and his brother, no cursed energy, but their power isn't something to dismiss. I hear even Gojo once got put down by one of them. If we make a mess in a public place, it'll bring too much attention. Killing them here would be reckless. He added quietly, also, keep an eye on Zen'in Shinsuke. He's obsessed with exorcising curses, especially the strong ones. Jogo's eyes hardened. If he's so fond of exorcising curses, then he must be eliminated. Jogo's expression darkened. He silently etched that man's name into his memory. Someday, he would make him understand the price of being too eager to exorcise curses. But for now, Jogo muttered, his molten eyes flaring with anticipation, I think I'll pay Satoru Gojo a visit. He glanced at Geto. Tell me, how strong am I compared to Ryman Sukuna's fingers? Geto was quiet for a moment before smirking. Honestly? Maybe 8 or 9 fingers worth. 8 or 9, huh? Jogo's grin widened, confidence burning hotter than the flames on his head. That's more than enough. Gojo's mine. And when I'm done, I'll take the prison realm as my trophy. The so-called strongest sorcerer, he wanted to see what that title really meant. Meanwhile, back at Tokyo Jujutsu High, preparations for the upcoming Kyoto Sister School Goodwill event had begun, and the students' hellish training was officially underway. Megumi! You're late. Maki Zen'in rested a long staff on her shoulder, shooting a cold glance at the slow-arriving Fushiguro Megumi. On the other side of the field, Nobara Kujisaki was being literally swung through the air, Panda holding her by the legs, spinning her like a giant hammer before tossing her across the training ground. Megumi ignored the chaos, his expression calm. "Zen'in-senpai," he said suddenly, "as a jujutsu sorcerer, what kind of person do you want to save?" "Huh?" Maki turned to him, raising an eyebrow. "Save? I don't care about saving anyone." Her tone was blunt, honest. Power, that was her only goal. What did saving people have to do with her? Truth be told, she wasn't a real sorcerer at all. Just someone bearing the title. "I see." Megumi looked slightly disappointed. He'd hoped to hear something insightful from his senior. Then a loud shriek echoed across the field. "Megumi! Aya!" Panda's training had reached new heights, literally, as Nobara went flying again. "What exactly are they doing?" Megumi asked, pointing at the absurd scene. "Training you, obviously." Maki smirked. "Your close combat skills are pathetic. You want to compete in the exchange event? Then you're getting through me first." She twirled the staff, eyes gleaming with mischief. "Really, Megumi, what's wrong with you? Your dad, your uncle, hell, even my master, were all top-tier fighters. Every one of them had god-tier close-quarters combat. So why are you so weak? Didn't they teach you anything?" Megumi shot her a flat look. "You think I'm like you? All muscle, no cursed energy? I actually have a technique to train. My focus is on refining my cursed energy control and shikigami usage." "You little..." Maki froze for a second, jaw tightening. Was that a jab? Was he mocking her because she had no cursed energy and had to rely purely on physical combat? "Fine," she said with a dangerous grin, cracking her knuckles. "You two, come with me. From now on, I'm handling your training personally." Her tone was sweet, but her eyes promised pain. Megumi sighed. Nobara, still dizzy from her aerial spins, groaned on the ground. And Maki Zen'in smiled like a devil about to make her students regret ever opening their mouths. Chapter 69, Infinite Potential, the Future High Rank. "It seems your training's been going pretty well." Zen'in Shinsuke stepped onto the training field, watching the students sparring and running drills with surprising discipline. "Sensei! You're here!" Maki's eyes lit up immediately. "Meet him," Shinsuke nodded with a faint smile. "Short hair suits you better." Maki's new look, short hair, no glasses, gave her a sharper, cleaner aura than before. Ever since she'd started cultivating vital energy, aura and blood force, she no longer needed her special glasses to see curses. The benefits of that power weren't limited to physical strength, it sharpened perception, awareness, and focus as well. "Really? I just thought short hair made fighting easier," Maki said, brushing her bangs back. "Anyway," Shinsuke said, glancing around the field, "what did you call me here for?" He had originally planned to take a break until the joint exchange event, but Maki had insisted he come in person. "Sensei, there's still about a month and a half until the exchange meet. How about giving us some special training?" she asked, eyes full of anticipation. Between constant missions, she hadn't had time for her master's direct guidance, and she could feel her progress slowing because of it. "Maki, you don't need to trouble Sensei," Panda interjected quickly. "Our training's already on track. It'd be better if he focused on guiding the first years." "Salmon roe," Inumaki muttered in agreement. They both looked terrified of the idea of another round of Zen'in-style hell training. "Sensei's time is precious," Panda added. "We wouldn't want to waste it." "Shut it!" Maki roared, veins popping. "You two satisfied with your strength right now? Don't you want to get stronger?" Her glare was so fiery that both Panda and Inumaki stiffened on the spot. "Oh? Special training, huh? Shinsuke rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Gojo was busy reinforcing Yuji's fundamentals, catching him up from zero. Meanwhile, the first years had been left in the second year's care. I think Megumi and Kujisaki are in good hands with you guys. As for you, he said, glancing at the trio, your fundamentals are already solid. What you need now is steady progress. I don't really have much more to teach. Ah. Maki's shoulders slumped, disappointment written all over her face. Shinsuke chuckled. Maki, it's not that I don't want to teach you. You've already entered the 8 Gates path, after that, there's no shortcut. Just hard, patient training. Oh right, he added, how's your progress these past few months? Maki's mood instantly flipped, her eyes brightening. Sensei. After all this time, I've only managed to open the second gate. How long before I can be like you? The second gate, huh, wait, what? Shinsuke blinked, looking stunned. You've already opened the second gate? She nodded eagerly. Yeah. But lately, my progress feels a lot slower. What's going on, Sensei? Maki had been pushing herself far beyond normal limits, wearing weighted gear even on missions, training every spare moment, relentlessly punishing her body to grow stronger. Shinsuke sighed, pressing a hand on her shoulder. A wave of aura surged through his palm as he examined her body's condition. After a few seconds, he withdrew his hand, nodding in approval. Incredible. You really did it. Because her natural recovery ability was limited, her aura and blood force had condensed faster, and since her physical body required less energy to open each gate, her progression far exceeded even his and his brother's pace. Her foundation might differ, but her speed was terrifying. Sensei? Did I do something wrong? She asked cautiously. Shinsuke smiled. No. You're perfectly fine, Maki. You're a genuine prodigy. Are really, Sensei? That word, prodigy, was something Maki Zen'in had never once heard in her entire life. TCH, Panda teased, leaning against the fence. Look at her, Maki only acts this sweet when she's around Zen'in Sensei. Maki instantly turned, glaring daggers. What was that, Panda? Want to run 10 laps with weights again? Salmon, run, muttered Inumaki under his breath. Panda sighed from the sidelines. Honestly, she's impossible. Around everyone else, Maki was a raging storm, but with her teacher? Sweet as sugar. Total double standard. What are they even talking about? Nobara folded her arms, staring at Maki and Zen'in Shinsuke's strange master-disciple exchange. I feel like I didn't understand a single word of that. Megumi replied calmly, that's normal. My uncle and Maki-senpai train in a completely different way than we do. What do you mean different? Aren't we all jujutsu sorcerers? Nobara frowned, visibly confused. Megumi sighed. I forgot to tell you. My uncle, Zen'in Sensei, and Maki-senpai too, they're both registered sorcerers at Jujutsu High, but neither of them actually has cursed energy. They don't even have techniques. They can't use jujutsu at all. Huh? Nobara blinked blankly, then threw her hands up. What kind of weirdo school is this? No wonder that old man carries around a giant spear all the time. Ever since entering Jujutsu High, she thought she'd seen it all, but apparently, the world still had more weirdness to offer. Uncle, Megumi said, stepping forward, cutting through Maki's chatter, there's something I've been meaning to ask. Shinsuke tilted his head, curious. During the battle a few days ago, with Sukuna, not at Idori, I noticed something. He said something like I might be able to defeat a special grade. Why would he say that? Is that even possible? It had been gnawing at him ever since. He couldn't wrap his head around it. He wasn't a special grade, or even close. So why would Sukuna, of all beings, acknowledge him that way? Oh, that. Shinsuke chuckled. Seems no one ever told you. He looked at Megumi's serious face and continued, his tone turning teacherly. I didn't tell you before because I didn't want you getting a big head. But since you've matured a bit, I guess it's fine now. Megumi, do you know why the Zen'in clan values you so much? I suppose it's because I inherited the family's hereditary technique, the 10 Shadows? Megumi answered honestly. Correct, Shinsuke said, nodding. And what do you think of it? Megumi shrugged. It's fine, I guess. I don't think it's anything special. Probably because I haven't mastered it yet. Shinsuke smiled faintly. You really underestimate yourself, kid. Let me put it simply, if you completely subjugate and command all 10 of your Shikigami, and wield that technique to its fullest, you'll be strong enough to stand toe-to-toe with the strongest sorcerer alive, Gojo Satoru. Megumi's eyes widened slightly. Shinsuke clapped him on the shoulder with a grin. So you'd better work hard, my dear nephew. Whether or not you can someday stomp that white-haired bastard into the dirt, depends entirely on you. Megumi stared blankly, torn between awe and disbelief. Hey, what about me? Nobara suddenly shoved him aside, puffing out her chest proudly. Look at me, sensei. What kind of future do I have? You? Shinsuke crossed his arms and pretended to study her seriously. Not bad at all. You've got great potential. Limitless, even. Keep it up, and your technique will make the higher-ups very happy. With some effort, you might even become one of the major figures in the Jujutsu world someday. For real? Nobara's eyes sparkled. What kind of power does a high-ranking official even have? Shinsuke coughed, trying not to laugh. Let's just say, if you make it to the top, you could practically take a dump on Gojo Satoru's head and no one could stop you. That's awesome! Everyone went silent for a beat. Megumi finally muttered, why does Zen'in Sensei always use Gojo Sensei as the example for everything? Panda, arms crossed, nodded sagely. It's the universal unit of measurement for power, pride, and pettiness. Chapter 70, The Kyoto Sister School Exchange Event. Inside the reception room, Gojo Satoru barged in without knocking, plopped himself down across from Yoshinobu Gakuganji, the Kyoto Jujutsu High Principal, and crossed one leg over the other with blatant disrespect. Don't bother waiting, Gojo said lazily. Principal Yago won't be showing up. I may or may not have told him the wrong meeting time. Today was the pre-event meeting for the upcoming Tokyo-Kyoto exchange event, a friendly competition between the two schools. Traditionally, both principals would meet beforehand to go over details. Gakuganji's expression tightened, his gnarled hands gripping his cane. Do all young people these days have no sense of manners? Save the act, old man, Gojo replied, leaning back into the couch. We both know you had a hand in the whole Itadori mess. You're one of the conservatives, right? Don't try to play saint with me. The only reason that guy didn't kill you on the spot is because you're still flexible enough to pretend you're not one of them. Gakuganji's eyes narrowed. What exactly are you trying to say? Gojo's smirk faded just a bit. Yesterday, I was attacked by 2 special grade curses. Oh, Gakuganji said flatly. That's unfortunate. That's not the point. Gojo leaned forward. Those 2 weren't mindless monsters, they talked. They coordinated. They understood human language. They were organized. And, the old man replied dismissively. We've seen that before. Decades ago, there was another intelligent special grade, wasn't there? You killed it easily enough. Gojo's grin widened, but his tone dropped. You still don't get it. Those 2 aren't the only ones. There are more out there with the same level of power. Haven't you noticed the pattern since last year's night parade of 100 demons? He began ticking names off his fingers. Tokyo's Okatsu Yuta. Hikari Kinji. Kyoto's Aoi Tadu. The Vessel of Sukuna. The sudden emergence of a coordinated group of powerful curses. Tell me, old man, doesn't any of this ring alarm bells? He stood, hands in his pockets, and said with a cold smile, "The world of jujutsu is changing, fast. What you fear, what you try to suppress, is evolving beyond your control. Your rule is crumbling. The old ways of ranking and control, special grade this, grade 1 that, they don't mean anything anymore." Gojo's voice carried a quiet conviction. The jujutsu world is on the verge of something new. Whether you like it or not, the era of the old guard is ending. Silence fell. Gakkiganji's face betrayed nothing. "Well, that's all I had to say," Gojo finally said, stretching. "Principal Yaga should be here in about 2 hours. Try not to bore him to death." With that, he turned on his heel and walked out, his white coat fluttering behind him, leaving behind a brooding Gakkiganji and a flustered Miwa Kasumi, who had been eavesdropping by the door, blushing furiously. Back at a small Tokyo apartment, Zen'in Shinsuke was lounging on the couch watching TV when his phone rang. "Yeah," he said lazily, answering. "If it's nonsense, make it quick. Can you not answer the phone like that?" Gojo's irritated voice came through the line. "Please. Be polite to you? Don't make me laugh." Fine, Gojo sighed. "I just wanted to ask, are you interested in helping me build a new jujutsu world?" Shinsuke blinked once, then hung up. Beep, beep. Gojo stared at the deadline, speechless. Yeah, should have seen that coming. So much for that idea. He'd thought about recruiting Shinsuke to his side. The man was a monster when it came to fighting curses, but apparently, changing the world wasn't on his to-do list. Guess it was up to Gojo and the next generation. Meanwhile, Shinsuke dropped the phone onto the table and sighed. That guy's got something wrong with his head. Moments later, a soft knock-knock came at his door. "Big brother, are you home?" He turned toward the voice. When he opened the door, a familiar figure leaned in, Zen'in Mai, her hair tied back, her eyes full of mischief. "There you are," she said, stepping right in and flopping onto the sofa. Shinsuke raised an eyebrow. "Weren't you supposed to be at Kyoto High?" I was. But since the Kyoto team's coming to Tokyo for the exchange event, and your place is nearby, I figured I'd drop by." She smiled sheepishly. Truth be told, Mai had been meaning to reconcile with her sister, but her pride got in the way. After a year apart, though, she couldn't resist coming back, even if just to peek. "What, got yourself in trouble again?" Shinsuke asked. "Did Maki rough you up this time?" "Wah, no." Mai puffed out her cheeks. "We just came to say hi, that's all. And besides, I'm not the same as before. Don't tell me you still think I can't beat her?" Shinsuke smirked. "Oh? Confident now, are we?" He gave her a closer look, then frowned slightly. "You're different. Wait, your cursed energy, it's stabilized?" A quick check confirmed it. Mai's aura was far stronger than before, steadier, sharper. "Of course," she said proudly. "I'm not some deadweight anymore." Shinsuke chuckled, genuinely impressed. "Good. The exchange event will be a perfect chance for you two to sort things out. Stop acting like enemies. You're sisters, not rivals to the death." Mai looked away, her lips pursed, but she didn't argue. For a brief moment, Zen'in Shinsuke was genuinely surprised, then quickly returned to his usual calm. So what if Mai had become a proper jujutsu sorcerer? With her construction technique, he doubted she truly understood how to use it efficiently. Unless she also trained her body and mastered close-quarters combat, that technique would never reach its full potential. Still, he had to admit, the Zen'in twins complemented each other perfectly. One was a weapon master, the other literally created weapons. Together, they could be unstoppable. Humph. Unless my sister apologizes to me first, I'll crush her in front of everyone and prove who's stronger." Mai raised a fist, cheeks puffed in defiant pride. Yeah, Shinsuke replied, waving her off. "You two sort your own drama. I'm not getting involved." He stood and stretched. "You eaten yet?" "I'll cook something." I want your mapo tofu. Mai shouted immediately, grinning like a child. Shinsuke sighed, but he was smiling too. 1.5 months later. The day of the Kyoto Sister School Exchange event had finally arrived. This year, it would be hosted in Tokyo. "All right," announced Principal Yaga Mazamichi, standing before the gathered students. "This year's event will officially begin at noon. Until then, everyone is free to prepare as they see fit." After declaring the opening rules, Yaga and the other instructors left for the conference room to oversee the event's logistics. "Ugh, seriously?" Kujisaki Nobara groaned, dragging her suitcase behind her. "They call it the Kyoto Sister School Exchange, so I thought we were actually going to Kyoto. I even packed for a trip." Panda, ever patient, explained, "The hosting location alternates depending on who won the previous event. Last year, Okatsu wiped the floor with Kyoto, so this time, it's Tokyo's turn. Originally, first years weren't even supposed to participate, but last year was unusual. Okatsu Yuta, still a first year at the time, had joined the battle because they were short on people. He single-handedly annihilated Kyoto's team. Not exactly a fair fight," Panda continued. "When a special grade sorcerer joins a school event, that's what we call dimensional bullying." "Wait, Yuta's not competing this time," came a loud, disappointed voice from the Kyoto side. It was Aoi to do, standing tall among his teammates. He scanned the Tokyo lineup, his face twisting with dissatisfaction. "No Yuta Okatsu? What a waste of time. Guess I'll pass." And with that, he turned on his heel and started to leave. "I've got better things to do," Takada-chan's concert starts soon. The Kyoto students collectively exchanged weary glances. "Well, that's to do for you," one of them muttered helplessly. Even their teachers didn't bother trying to stop him. After all, To-Do didn't even respect the principal's authority. If he didn't want to fight, nobody could make him. Chapter 71, The Exchange Event begins. "Let's go. Time to plan our strategy." Maki shot a brief glance at her twin sister Mai across the field before turning to lead the Tokyo Jujutsu High team back toward their waiting room. Once inside, everyone finally relaxed a little. "To win this exchange event," Maki began, her tone crisp and commanding, "our first priority is to avoid fighting Aoi to do." Nobara frowned. "Right, I've been meaning to ask, what is that guy's deal?" She looked between Maki, Panda, and the others. A month ago, when both schools had met to introduce their representatives, Nobara had seen firsthand what To-Do Aoi could do, and it was not something a human should be capable of. "That guy," Maki said flatly, "has the power to exorcise a special grade curse. He's a real monster. If you can, just stay far away from him." She glanced at Yuji, who was standing quietly near the back of the room. "Originally, I planned for Panda or Fushiguro to distract him, but..." Her eyes narrowed. "Since you're back from the dead, that job's yours, Itadori." Yuji blinked. "Huh? You don't have to beat him, just stall for time," Maki continued. "You're an unexpected variable anyway. If things go bad, retreat. No shame in that." Yuji clenched his fists, a confident smile spreading across his face. "Wow, that was harsh, but all right. If that's my job, then I'll win." "That's the spirit," Maki said with a grin. Meanwhile, over at Kyoto Jujutsu High, Principal Gakuganji Yoshinobu was giving his own orders. "Your top priority," he said solemnly, "is to kill Itadori Yuji." "Wait, what?" Miwa Kasumi blinked. "I thought the rules said no killing." "Itadori Yuji is Sukuna's vessel," Gakuganji replied coldly. "He should have died by his own hand, but since he's still breathing, it's not too late to fix that mistake. Just blame it on Sukuna afterward." "Understood, Principal," replied Kamo Noritoshi, eyes closed and expression unreadable. Once dismissed, the Kyoto students gathered in their prep room. "To-Do's not going to follow orders anyway," Kamo sighed. "He'll probably charge in and do whatever he wants, as usual." "Then ignore him," Kamo continued. We'll form our own plan. The priority is Itadori. Victory can come later, killing him comes first. Can't we just have a normal, friendly competition? Miwa asked nervously. Who cares? Mai replied with a smirk. I only have one goal, Maki. She flipped her hair with a cocky grin. Leave the rest to you. My sister's mine. Kumo raised an eyebrow. That attitude isn't much different from Tadu's, you know. Is your sister really that strong? Miwa asked curiously. Mai scoffed. Her? Please. She used to be a useless failure who couldn't even see curses. She only has a bit of brute strength thanks to our brother's training. Nothing I can't handle. Though her words were full of confidence, there was a flicker of something else in her eyes. Pride? Resentment? Determination? It was hard to tell. This time, Mai thought, I'll show her I'm not the weak little sister anymore. Miwa, oblivious to the tension, simply nodded. I see. Then it sounds like we've got this in the bag. All right, Kumo said, standing. Let's go. The match is about to begin. By noon, both teams had entered the dense forest, the same battleground where Zen'in Shinsuke and Gojo Satoru once fought. A loudspeaker crackled to life. Ahem, testing, Gojo's cheerful voice echoed across the woods. All right, everyone, the match is about to begin. Let's have a few words from Kyoto's very own Yutaheim Iori. Right, Yutaheim's uncertain voice came through the speaker. Everyone, remember that teamwork and friendship are... Okay, time's up. Match start. Gojo interrupted gleefully. You damn brat. Yutaheim shouted from the viewing room, slamming the table. Can't you show some respect to your seniors? Relax, Gojo's voice replied lazily. Anger just makes you age faster. The other teachers simply sat back, quietly sipping their tea as the chaos, and the competition, began to unfold. Gojo Satoru waved his hand dismissively, not even glancing at Yutaheim, who was still fuming beside him. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, he turned toward the man standing quietly near the railing, the ever-reluctant Zen'in Shinsuke. Well, look who decided to show up, Gojo drawled with a teasing grin. I've been calling you for years, and you never show up. But the one time I don't invite you, boom, you appear. What gives? No choice, Shinsuke replied lazily, his tone calm yet sharp. This time, I smelled prey. And I'd hate for you to snatch it first. Gojo's smile faltered. Prey? What's that supposed to mean? You expecting trouble? Linking it with recent events, the coordinated special grade attacks, the strange energy shifts, Gojo's instincts went on high alert. He turned toward Shinsuke, the air between them tightening. What do you know? Shinsuke smirked slightly. Relax. I'm not your undercover spy. Gojo froze for half a second, brows knitting beneath his blindfold. Wait, how does he know about that? That operation was top secret, something not even most of the higher-ups were aware of. And this guy, the infamous slacker who spent his days hunting curses and skipping meetings, should have had zero interest in such things. Seemed you know more than you let on, Gojo said, his voice low and amused. Of course, Shinsuke replied smoothly. When it comes to powerful curses, I make it my business to know. He leaned closer, a sly glint in his eyes. Tell you what, beg me, and maybe I'll share a juicy secret or two. Gojo snorted and turned away. As if. Me? Beg you? Yeah, not happening, not in this lifetime. Before Shinsuke could retort, Yutaheim and Amini Riko, both eavesdropping shamelessly, leaned in, eyes sparkling with curiosity. Come on, Zen'in-sensei, Yutaheim said, grinning. What's this juicy secret you're talking about? Yeah, spill it, old man. Riko chimed in, bouncing excitedly. Shinsuke chuckled. All right, but keep it between us. He leaned in and whispered something too quiet for Gojo to hear. Whatever it was, both women froze, then gasped dramatically. No way! That's insane! You're serious? They both turned to stare at Gojo, not angry, but wide-eyed and speechless, as if they had just learned something unholy. Gojo blinked. What? Why are you looking at me like that? Nothing, Yudaheim said quickly, a faint smirk tugging her lips. Hey, come on, tell me. Gojo pleaded, inching closer. Yudaheim-senpai, please? I swear I'll treat you with so much respect from now on. She crossed her arms. Ask Zen'in yourself. Gojo immediately turned to Riko. Riko, my favorite Kohai, you wouldn't keep secrets from me, right? Riko huffed and looked away. Ask the old man yourself. Gojo's face twisted in mock outrage. Unbelievable. You're all conspiring against me. This is harassment. The others ignored his tantrum. Shinsuke simply kept his eyes on the arena, arms folded, his expression unreadable. This time, he thought, there's no way I'm letting my quarry escape. The tension in his gaze hardened into killing intent. If the organized curses he'd been tracking were truly going to make their move, then he'd make sure their focus stayed on him, not the students. If they wanted chaos, he'd gladly become the storm. A small grin crept up his lips as his aura thickened, sharp, predatory, almost feral. Hey, Gojo said suddenly, sensing the shift. You good? Shinsuke blinked, snapped out of his thoughts, and answered flatly. Just got excited thinking about something. Gojo stared at him for a moment. Right. I forgot you're also a complete freak. Chapter 72, Sisters Duel. Clang! A long blade came crashing down against Miwa Kasumi's katana, the sheer force of impact numbing her arm and driving her backward through the shallow stream. Her grip trembled as she desperately parried blow after blow. Each strike from Zen'in Maki carried monstrous power, fast, precise, and utterly merciless. Clang! Clang! Damn it, you liar! Miwa hissed between clenched teeth, bracing against another crushing swing. That idiot had said Maki was a useless 4th-grade sorcerer with 0 cursed energy and a bit of brute strength. This was brute strength that could split mountains. Even the ever-gentle Miwa couldn't hold back a curse of frustration as she barely kept herself from being sent flying again. Just a little bit of physical strength, huh, she shouted inwardly. If this is what a 4th-grade failure looks like, I'll quit being a sorcerer right now. Maki's Naginata whirled with lethal grace, pressing her like a storm. Miwa's shorter katana left her at a disadvantage, a longer reach means a stronger threat, and she could barely keep up with the tempo. And this was with Maki deliberately keeping the blade's edge sheathed. If she hadn't. Miwa shuddered. She'd probably have been bisected a dozen times already. This is a 4th-grade sorcerer? Damn you, you absolute moron. Her protest was cut short as Maki seized an opening, pivoted, and kicked her square in the gut. The impact hurled Miwa into the river with a violent splash, water exploding around her. Maki's voice followed, calm and cold. That's all you've got? From above, Maki dropped down like a hawk, blade raised high. Miwa barely rolled aside before the ground where she'd been standing split from the impact. Damn, she's faster than I thought. Sliding her blade back into its scabbard, Miwa drew a deep breath. Her stance tightened. New shadow style, simple domain. A faint shimmer spread around her, a circle roughly 2 meters wide. Within it, her sword arm would move on instinct, automatically countering any strike that entered. It was her trump card, but one with limits. If her opponent leapt out of range before the blade cleared its sheath, the domain would collapse instantly. An Aido stance? Maki mused, raising an eyebrow. So you're betting everything on a single opening. Her grin widened. Cute. Stay sharp. Miwa warned, too late. Maki's muscles coiled like springs as she hurled her own Naginata straight at her. Then, in the instant Miwa focused on deflecting it. Splash! Maki exploded forward, launching herself across the water like a bullet, summoning another weapon mid-charge. What? Miwa barely managed to parry the incoming blade, steel screeching against steel. Clang! Before she could recover, Maki was already inside her guard. You're done. One hand caught Miwa's wrist, the other slammed into her throat. Maki twisted, pivoted, and threw her through the air like a rag doll, sending her crashing several meters away into the stream. Ugh! Miwa coughed, splashing as she tumbled, but managed to roll to her feet, drenched and shaking. Then she froze. Her hand instinctively reached for her sword. It wasn't there. Looking for this? Maki twirled Miwa's katana effortlessly in her hand, then leveled the blade toward her. Nice sword. I'll hold on to it. Ah, and my sword, give it back. Miwa slumped, completely deflated. A swordswoman without her sword, it was over. She had no face left to continue fighting. Observation room. Mei leaned back in her chair, an amused smile tugging at her lips. My. Zen'in Sensei, that's your student, isn't it? She's remarkable. The once awkward girl from years ago now moved with lethal precision. Even Mei couldn't help but be impressed. Zen'in Shinsuke gave a short nod. Yeah. That's her. Why hasn't she been promoted yet? Mei asked, her tone curious. Gojo, lounging nearby, added before Shinsuke could answer, I've been wondering the same thing. Probably the Zen'in clan's handiwork. They love stepping on their own talent. Shinsuke's eye twitched. Thanks for the reminder. Isn't the ranking system important? Gojo continued with mock innocence. You know, recognition, mission access, pay grade. Kind of a big deal. Shinsuke scratched his head, genuinely puzzled. I never really thought about it. Gojo smirked. Typical. You're literally from the Zen'in family, can't even pull a few strings for your own disciple? The older man sighed. Fine. You're right. Can't have her stuck as a 4th grade sorcerer forever, sounds pathetic. After this, she's getting bumped up to 1st grade. He turned toward Principal Yaga sitting silently in the back. No objections, right, Yaga? Yaga folded his arms, considering. Promotion to 1st grade requires 2 recommendations from existing 1st grades or higher, and, well, the Zen'in clan's been blocking her file for years. Shinsuke waved a hand dismissively. Then I'll handle them myself. If they have a problem, they can come find me. His tone was calm, but the weight behind it left no room for debate. All right, Yaga said finally, cracking a small grin. Then it's settled. Once Maki gets promoted to 1st grade, her status, pay, perks will improve a lot, and she'll owe her master a nice debt of gratitude. Seeing that, Principal Yaga could only concede. After all, as a mere principal he wasn't exactly someone the 2 big wildcards of the Jujutsu world would take orders from. Gojo he could handle to some extent, but this other one? No way. TSK, you act like you're the head of the Zen'in family or something, Gojo mocked from the side, then switched topics. By the way, the feed around Yuji keeps glitching since the match started. Mei answered calmly, they're animals. They move on whims. Sharing vision is taxing. Her crows were broadcasting the whole event. If the stream had trouble, it was because of her birds. Is that so? Gojo wasn't entirely reassured. He knew Yuji would be targeted, but he wasn't overly worried. Yuji wasn't so fragile anymore. So, Mei, which side are you on? Gojo asked. Mei propped her chin on her hand, bored. I back money. I don't care about things that don't involve money. She wouldn't pick a side unless someone paid enough to make it worth her while. Back on the field, Mai, perched in a tree a few hundred meters away, rose slowly, spinning a handgun in her hand. Good. It's still in range. One down, she whispered. Hey, ambushing a first-year girl like that? Not cool, Maki's voice came from the branch across from her. She stood perfectly straight, gripping the katana that once belonged to Miwa, the wind lifting her short hair, lending her an air of sharp elegance. "I'll give you time to call your teammates," Maki said. "2-on-1's beneath me." Heh, finally showed up, Mai smiled and aimed her gun at her sister. "Don't think you can be arrogant just because you're his disciple." "I'd rather do this 1-on-1, Maki replied coldly. "I want you to bow and apologize for what you put us through." "Ready to lose, sister?" Mai's eyes hardened. This was the day she'd waited for, the chance to prove she wasn't the weak link. "You're such a troublesome little sister," Maki said with a small smile, tightening her grip on the hilt. She could lose to many things, but she would never lose to her own sister. Chapter 73, The Invasion. "Zen'in Sensei, what's with those two sisters?" Yutaheim frowned as she stared at the screen showing Maki and Mai locked in a fierce standoff. "Yeah, seriously, old man," Riko added, tilting her head. "Weren't they super close when they were kids? How'd they go from inseparable to mortal enemies?" She remembered them well, two girls always together, always laughing, practically glued at the hip. And now, they looked like they'd kill each other without a second thought. Shinsuke shrugged casually. That's just teenage rebellion." Yutaheim visibly shivered. "Ugh, hearing that come from you gives me chills, old man." She couldn't tell which was scarier, his deadpan delivery or the fact that he sounded like a dad who'd given up on parenting. "So, Sensei," she asked, "which of them do you think will win?" Her eyes were fixed on the monitor. She knew Mai well enough to understand how far the younger Zen'in had come. Given the kind of toxic household she'd grown up in, her persistence alone was something to respect. "Obviously, my disciple," Shinsuke replied flatly. He knew Mai's ability inside and out, construction, a cursed technique that allowed her to manifest physical objects from cursed energy itself. A godlike power, but one that demanded an impossible amount of energy to maintain. The old Mai could only construct a single bullet per day before her cursed energy bottomed out. Even now, after training and refining her control, she'd be lucky to manage a few more before her reserves ran dry. Unless her physical combat skills had somehow caught up to Maki's level, she didn't stand a chance. Yutaheim frowned. "Don't underestimate her, Sensei. Mai's been working really hard this past year." Crack! Before Shinsuke could reply, the screen flared with movement. Maki had closed the gap in an instant, slicing through Mai's bullet mid-flight with a single, precise stroke. "Little sister," Maki said, eyes cold but steady, "that's your 7th round, isn't it? You've hit your limit. Surrender." Her tone was confident. After all, she still thought Mai's maximum output was a single cursed bullet. 6 from the gun's magazine, 1 from her technique, 7 total. The math checked out. No energy, no chance. But Mai only smiled, raising her weapon again. "Arrogant as ever, sis, but the one who's losing here." Bang! "Is you." A glowing blue bullet shot out of the barrel like a streak of light. "What?" Maki's eyes widened. The shot was already at her face before she could even think. Of course. She should have known. A full year of training, Mai wasn't the same girl she used to be. Maki tilted her head slightly and exhaled. "Another bullet, huh? That's your new limit then?" Her hand snapped up. Pack! She caught the bullet between her fingers. Cursed energy exploded across her palm with a flash. TCH. Maki winced, shaking out her smoking hand. "Yeah, still hurts like hell. Note to self, don't catch bullets barehanded." "Not bad, Sensei's student," Riko laughed from the observation room. "She's got your style, reckless and overdramatic." Yutaheim nodded. "Yeah, didn't you also grab a bullet with your bare hand once, old man?" Shinsuke waved it off modestly. "Please. It's just a bullet, not a nuke." Back on the field. "You've lost," Maki said, closing the distance again. She flipped her blade, ready to deliver a non-lethal blow to prove her point. Big sister will always be big sister. Bang! She froze mid-step. You've gotta be kidding me. Mai's smirk widened. Still acting superior, huh, dear sister? She fired again. Bang! 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 Four cursed bullets in rapid succession, each one tracing a different path, sealing off every escape route. Let's see her catch four at once. You've improved, Maki admitted quietly, her voice tinged with pride. You've really been working hard. Her stance shifted. But... A deep breath. Her eyes sharpened like blades. You're not the only one with a teacher. White steam began to rise from her body as her blood boiled and her aura surged. Veins pulsed across her forehead, every fiber of her being igniting at once. Her speed, her strength, her senses, all spiked to another level. To her, the world slowed. The bullets crawled toward her like drifting petals. Her muscles tightened, and her blade flashed. Clang! 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 Each round was sliced cleanly from the air, sparks bursting in slow motion as the sisters' duel reached its breaking point. It transitions perfectly from the emotional sister duel into the large-scale battle setup. Maki's long blade blurred through the air, leaving streaks of silver light. Clang! 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 All four cursed bullets were deflected, each one sliced and sent spinning harmlessly into the trees. Before Mai could even react, a shadow flashed before her eyes. Maki appeared right in front of her, moving like a phantom. With a heavy swing. Thud! The flat of her blade slammed down on Mai's back. Gah! The younger sister was flung forward, crashing and rolling across the grass, dirt and leaves scattering everywhere. When she finally came to a stop, a trickle of blood ran from her nose. Shing! Maki flipped her sword and pointed it toward her fallen sister, a small but confident smile tugging at her lips. Little sister, she said softly. You lose. Mai's body trembled as she glared up with teary eyes, muttering under her breath. Liar. Maki blinked. Huh? Observation room. What just happened? Yudaheim leaned forward, frowning. How did Maki's speed suddenly spike like that? She could hardly believe what she'd seen. Mai hadn't just lost, she'd been completely overwhelmed. Gojo crossed his arms, eyes narrowing as he studied the monitor. That technique, you taught it to her, didn't you? There was a note of surprise in his voice. He knew Zen'in Shinsuke's power wasn't cursed energy. It was something else, raw, primal, and terrifyingly pure. A force closer to the essence of life itself, not born of curses, but of sheer will. I have to ask, Gojo continued, curiosity getting the better of him, is it something we could learn too? If Jujutsu sorcerers could wield that kind of physical power, it could change everything, a revolution in the balance between curse and human. Shinsuke chuckled. I'm afraid not. That art was created for those without cursed energy. He turned toward Gojo with a sly grin. Of course, if you want to try, you just have to stop generating cursed energy entirely. Gojo smirked, shaking his head. Yeah, no thanks. I'll pass. Even if it were possible, why would he ever throw away Limitless to learn some martial art? That'd be absurd. Relax, Shinsuke said, waving a hand. Just watch the match. The group turned their attention back to the screens. Time passed. Of the many paper talismans stuck on the wall to track each match, only 2 had burned away, a sign that most of the participants still hadn't been eliminated. Which, to the veterans, said only one thing: no one was really focused on winning. As the exchange event wore on, the students scattered across the forest. Miwa, still dazed after losing her sword, wandered aimlessly through the woods, until Inamaki's disembodied voice reached her. Sleep! And she dropped instantly, collapsing face first into the grass with a soft thud. Yudaheim sighed, rising from her seat. I'll go fetch her. Can't leave the girl unconscious out there, even if the curses here only go up to grade 2. Good idea, Yaga nodded. Stay sharp. Then. Boom! A shockwave rippled through the observation hall. Every paper talisman on the wall suddenly flared bright red, their flames roaring unnaturally high. Bzzzzzt. The monitors all went dark at once. Static. Then, blackout. All red, Gojo said slowly. His grin widened. So that means, we won, right? Guess we wrapped this up faster than I thought. Or, Mei replied calmly, it means your students just got exorcised by something else. Gojo's smile froze. Wait. Are you saying? Yaga's expression turned grim. An incursion. What? Impossible. How would a curse breach Tengen-sama's barrier? Yudaheim gasped. No matter what's happening, Yaga said, standing up, his voice hard, this is an emergency. He turned to the gathered sorcerers. Gojo Satoru, Riko, Yudaheim, Zen'in Sensei, and Principal Gakkiganji, you five head into the field. Ensure the student's safety. His gaze shifted toward Mei. Mei-san, you stay here and provide us with visual and positional data from your crows. He adjusted his collar, already moving toward the exit. I'll contact Tengen-sama and find out what's going on. Chapter 74, Gojo Satoru has been banned. Next. Let's go, said Zen'in Shinsuke, standing and stretching his shoulders with a predatory grin. Time to enjoy the hunt. He stepped toward the exit without hesitation. This was the perfect opportunity, draw in all the hatred, make himself the target, and feast on it. Gojo followed beside him, muttering under his breath. You totally knew this was gonna happen. And you still have the nerve to say you're not the mole. Shinsuke chuckled. Please. That's not espionage, that's foresight. I don't need to move an inch to know when chaos is coming. Gojo smirked behind his blindfold. Then humor me. Who's stronger, me, or Sukuna at full power? He said it half as a joke, half as a test. Sure, there was an informant in Jujutsu High, but it sure as hell wasn't this guy. No one would ever believe Zen'in Shinsuke, the man who hated curses more than anyone, would cooperate with one. Still, Gojo couldn't quite figure out how he always seemed to know when trouble was coming, unless he had a cheat code. Shinsuke's step faltered slightly. He gave Gojo a strange look. 50-50, he said at last, then quickened his pace toward the battlefield. Gojo blinked. Wait, what the hell kind of answer is that? The group followed close behind. When they reached the outer perimeter, a massive black curtain was already descending from the sky, swallowing the forest below. Damn it! I knew it! Yudaheim snapped. Someone's breached the barrier. Gojo, get in there before it closes. But Gojo didn't move. His expression, though hidden beneath the blindfold, was unnervingly calm. It's useless, he said flatly. It's already complete. While to the naked eye the barrier still looked like it was forming, his 6 eyes had already traced its structure in full, a completed curtain, perfectly sealed. The 5 sorcerers came to a stop before the obsidian veil. Fine, Gojo said, stepping forward. Then I'll just break it. He extended a hand toward the barrier. Thrack! A surge of black lightning exploded from the surface, throwing him several meters back. Yudaheim gasped. What the? It repelled you? Gojo straightened, brushing the dust from his uniform. Yeah. I get it now. He turned toward them, his tone suddenly sharp. This barrier was made specifically for me. Everyone else can go in freely, but me? I'm locked out. Shinsuke let out a low whistle. Heh. So someone finally figured out how to keep the great Gojo Satoru on the sidelines, huh? Gojo's lips curled into a tight smile. Seems like we've got a very competent curse user in the mix. Pfft. Shinsuke couldn't help but laugh, clapping Gojo on the shoulder. Don't pout, kid. You stay here and think of a way in. I'll go handle my prey. Without waiting for a reply, he turned and walked straight into the curtain, slipping through effortlessly. Gojo froze for a moment, staring at his retreating figure. Even that guy could walk right in? Seriously? So the barrier really did exclude only him. Fine, he muttered. Whatever. Go on, enjoy yourselves. He glanced at the others. Rico, Yudaheim, old man, you three head inside. I'll stay here and analyze this thing. They nodded without hesitation and entered the curtain. Inside, the atmosphere changed immediately. Thick, suffocating cursed energy pressed against them from every direction. Yudaheim's skin prickled. This amount of energy, don't tell me a special gray got in. Rico's voice trembled slightly. Please, no more special grades. I've had enough trauma for one lifetime. Then. Gojo Satoru isn't here? A bald man stepped into view at the forest's edge, his face twisted into a grotesque grin. Even at a glance, he radiated malevolence. But no matter. He hissed. His eyes locked onto Shinsuke, gleaming with manic delight. I think I found something even better. He licked his lips, his body trembling with excitement. What a perfect coat rack. Such exquisite form, I'll make sure to preserve every part of you. A masterpiece for my collection. He ignored Yudaheim, Rico, and even Gakkiganji entirely. Right now, the only thing that existed in his world was the man standing before him, Zen'in Shinsuke. And Shinsuke, in turn, smiled faintly. Perfect, he murmured. Looks like the first course just volunteered itself. Gakkiganji squinted at the bald curse user before them, his voice low and gravelly. He's not the main source of that cursed energy, but he's not weak either. He adjusted the guitar strap over his shoulder and turned to the others. You two, go secure the students. Avoid unnecessary combat if possible. I'll handle this one. Yudaheim nodded quickly. Be careful, Principal. Without hesitation, she and Rico split off in opposite directions, sprinting into the dense forest. That left Zen'in Shinsuke alone in the clearing, stretching his neck and shoulders as he locked onto a far stronger presence in the distance. A bit far, he muttered, closing his eyes to sense the energy pulsing on the edge of the barrier. I'll have to reach it before Gojo scares the prey away. A faint hiss escaped his skin as thin streams of white steam curled up from his body. His flesh flushed crimson, veins bulging beneath the surface as his aura thickened, sharp, predatory, and bloodthirsty. He smiled. Old man, I'll be going ahead. Wait, the bald curse user screamed as Shinsuke crouched low. You can't just leave. You can't run from me, my perfect coat rack. I'm not letting you go. The curse user lunged, his machete cleaving through the air with manic fury. But Shinsuke didn't even look back. He had no interest in sideshows. His legs coiled like springs, and then... boom! The ground beneath him fractured in a spiderweb of cracks as he launched himself upward like a cannon shell, vanishing into the sky. The bald curse user and Gakkiganji both stumbled, nearly losing their footing from the shockwave. No! No! And oh, the curse shrieked, veins bulging across his skull. My perfect coat rack. Come back here. He started to chase, but... whum! A wave of sound and cursed energy erupted from Gakkiganji's guitar, striking the ground in front of him and forcing him to a halt. Don't even think about it, the old man growled, his tone as heavy as thunder. The curse snarled, eyes flashing with rage. You old bastard. You let my masterpiece escape. You want to die, don't you? Gakkiganji sighed, unimpressed. You really should be thanking me. I just saved your life. He plucked a single string, the vibration humming through the air. If you'd chased him, you'd be in pieces already. The curse trembled with fury, but deep down, it knew the old man was right. Meanwhile, deeper in the forest. Black flash. Tiger stripes of cursed energy burst through the trees as Itadori Yuji's fist connected with the earth, the impact sending shockwaves through the clearing. He was moving in perfect rhythm now, body, mind, and cursed energy completely synchronized. Beside him, Aoi To-Do grinned from ear to ear, his eyes blazing with pride. "As expected of my brother," he declared. "You didn't let me down." In that moment, the two stood side by side against their enemy, the special grade curse, Hanami. A living embodiment of nature's hatred, Hanami's twisted body pulsed with dark green energy, roots and vines writhing like serpents. "This curse is strong," To-Do said, his tone turning sharp, "but if we fight together?" He slammed his fists together, a grin splitting his face. "We'll crush it." Yuji nodded firmly, black lightning still flickering around his arm. "Yeah. Let's finish this, brother." Chapter 75, Exorcism. "Brother," Aoi To-Do cracked his knuckles, a grin tugging at the corners of his mouth as his aura flared, thick and violent. "It's time we teach this thing a lesson." For him, there was nothing in the world more exhilarating than fighting side by side with his best friend. "Let's go," he said, rolling his shoulders. "Guess it's finally time to use my technique." Yuji Itadori nodded, tightening his fists. "Yeah." The two charged in unison. With To-Do's Boogie Woogie swapping their positions at blinding speed, the pair overwhelmed the special grade curse Hanami, their rhythm unpredictable, their attacks relentless. Each swap was followed by a devastating strike, a blur of motion, impact, and the crackling roar of black flash. If not for Hanami's inhumanly durable body, it would have been reduced to dust already. Hanami steadied itself, its monstrous form trembling from the barrage. "I see." It rasped, its voice calm but tinged with dark amusement. So simple, yet so difficult to counter. It recalled Mahito's words, "Learn to enjoy the process." At the time, it hadn't understood what he meant. But now, as it stood on the edge between agony and exhilaration, it finally did. "Ah, so this is it. The joy of battle." Hanami tore away the white bandages from its left arm. What emerged was a pitch-black limb, pulsing with cursed energy. From its shoulder grew a bulbous, half-bloomed flower, the color of blood and ash. Pressing its hand to the ground, Hanami began to drink. The earth cracked beneath its touch as every tree, vine, and blade of grass in a wide radius withered to gray dust. The life force of the forest flowed into that dark flower bud, feeding it. Behind Hanami, a monstrous tree burst forth from the earth, its petals a sea of crimson mouths, each one whispering and gnashing like tiny, living curses. The air thickened with decay and death. Yuji, To-Do warned, his tone unusually serious. "Its cursed energy just spiked. Be careful." He was still smiling, but there was no mistaking the gravity in his eyes. "Amazing, isn't it? It's already adapting. That's what makes fighting a special grade so much fun." He clenched his fists. "But it's not unbeatable. Not while we're together." If it were just him alone, he knew this would already be over. But now he had Yuji, his kindred spirit, his partner in chaos. From the moment they met, To-Do knew this boy would make life exciting again. "You holding up okay?" Yuji asked, wiping blood from his lip. "Please," To-Do scoffed. "This? Barely a scratch." "Then let's finish this," Yuji said, eyes blazing. "Right here, right now." The memory of that other curse, the stitch-faced monster who'd haunted him since Shibuya, flickered in his mind. This one was just like it. A spawn of the same evil. That was all the reason he needed. "Die here, curse." Boom! Just as the two were about to strike, the sky itself split open with a thunderous crack. A shockwave rippled through the entire battlefield, shaking the earth beneath their feet. Everyone, from the Tokyo students to the Kyoto team, froze and instinctively looked up. The overcast clouds churned violently, their color shifting from gray to an ominous, burning red. Boom! Another explosion. Louder this time. Closer. Yuji's eyes widened. What is that?" To-Do turned his gaze skyward, a grin spreading across his face even as the pressure in the air grew unbearable. "Looks like," he said with a dark chuckle, something even scarier than this one just showed up. To-do turned his gaze toward the distant sky, squinting. A faint figure was hurtling toward them at breakneck speed. Yuji, he said, his grin widening. Get ready to fall back. Looks like our backup just arrived. Yuji shaded his eyes, trying to focus on the approaching blur. Wait, is that Professor Zen'in? His jaw nearly hit the ground. Zen'in Sensei was flying. What the hell? He wasn't the only one gaping. Across the battlefield, students from both schools stopped mid-fight, staring in disbelief. Hey, wait, isn't that the Zen'in guy from Tokyo Jujutsu High? One Kyoto student shouted. Didn't they say he has no cursed energy? How's he flying? Even Momo Nishimiya, who was retreating through the air with the unconscious Inumaki in tow, almost got knocked out of the sky by the sudden gust. What the hell? True, I'm the one flying here, but that's just plain unnatural. Is that guy even human? Below, Maki, Panda, and Megumi spotted the familiar figure streaking through the air, trailing a jet of white steam like a comet. It's Sensei. Maki's eyes sparkled with admiration. I swear, one day I'm gonna be like him. Megumi could only sigh, a vein pulsing on his temple. Sensei-kin, fly? You haven't seen him in his prime, Megumi, Maki said, already puffing up with pride. Back then, right here in this very forest, he and Gojo-sensei. Ahem, Panda cut in quickly, maybe save the fan club speech for after we escape? Maki pouted. Fine, but remind me later, you need to hear this story. With that, the trio took off again. They'd regroup with the teachers first, no telling how many more special grades were lurking. On the other side of the forest, To-do yanked Yuji out of Hanami's attack range just in time. Hanami's body went rigid. Something terrifying was coming. Its vines quivered as it looked skyward. That cursed energy, no, this one's different. Is it Gojo Satoru? But as the figure descended into view, Hanami froze. The man's skin was crimson, muscles bulging, veins standing out beneath his flesh like cords. Steam hissed from his body as he grinned, a feral, beast-like smile that radiated killing intent. No cursed energy detected. Not Gojo. A twisted sense of relief flickered through Hanami's chest. Not Gojo, but something worse. 3-on-1? Hanami growled. So be it. It slammed its hand to the ground, cursed energy bursting outward. Domain of Thorns. Dozens of colossal branches erupted upward, spearing toward the sky like living lances. From above, Zen'in Shinsuke's eyes lit up. Found you, he said, his voice cold. A domain technique, huh? You must be the one they call Hanami. His legs coiled. The air cracked. Boom! With a thunderclap, he dove, faster than a bullet, a red streak ripping through the clouds. His fist clenched tight, muscles straining as steam spiraled around his arm. When he punched, the air itself screamed. Crash! The descending blow obliterated every branch in its path, splintering Hanami's defenses like rotten wood. Hanami's eyes widened. Impossible. It tried to retreat, but too late. Shinsuke's body hit the ground like a meteor. Boom! A crater several meters deep exploded outward, shockwaves flattening the surrounding forest. The blast hurled both Yuji and To-do into the air. Whoa! To-do twisted midair, landing on his feet, grabbing Yuji by the collar before he hit the ground. Steady yourself, brother, he grinned. Yuji's jaw dropped. What the hell is Zen'in-sensei doing? He's like a walking natural disaster. But the crater was already empty. Then, crack! Another explosion erupted in the distance. Hanami's body slammed into the ground, its face crushed into the dirt. The earth split apart under the impact, vines and roots scattering. So fast. Hanami gasped, panic flooding its mind. It hadn't even seen the attack. Before it could move, a shadow fell over it. Shinsuke straddled its chest, grinning down like a demon from hell. "Hello there, little curse," he said softly. Hanami's eyes went wide. Then came the pain. Shinsuke grabbed both of its massive, root-like eyes, and ripped them out. Purple fluid sprayed across the ground as Hanami let out a shriek so horrible it made even the trees tremble. Arghhhhh. The agony was indescribable. Its entire body convulsed violently, the sound raw and wet. "Relax, little curse," Shinsuke said, flicking away the dripping eyes. "I'll make sure you don't feel a thing, soon enough." He raised his fists, each one the size of a sledgehammer, wrapped in blood steam. And then he started punching. Bam! 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 Each strike landed like a cannon blast, pounding Hanami's skull into pulp. Purple ichor spattered across the earth, staining everything it touched. Yuji and Tadu watched from afar, their faces pale. Yuji swallowed hard. "Isn't there some rule about not torturing living things?" Tadu crossed his arms solemnly. "Normally, yes." He glanced at the crater, where Shinsuke was still rhythmically beating the curse into the ground. "But I think exceptions can be made." That's the end of this tale for now. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in part 4. Peace.